Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
Hi.
How are you this morning?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know. I did a lot of mental math in my head last night. Tried to figure out,
how many more people are on a real football field as opposed to an 8-man football field? Or oh, no, that's my bad. That's a different thing. Okay.
Well, here we go.
Just going to start like that this morning?
What I was going to
my
say
bad.
before I was once again very rudely interrupted by my friend.
I'm bad at that. I apologize.
Dude, you snipped me yesterday, too.
I know. I felt bad. Like on the clip, I was like,
it doesn't matter. I don't care.
I know, but like in the moment, it didn't seem as bad. And then I watched it on the clip, and I was like, God, that's pretty bad.
It's totally fine. I was trying to figure out in my head, I know Q Jamie and all my mathematician friends, but if in fact Sirianni completes that pass from Jalen Hoyts and he gets the first down
to Saquon,
or because he saved probably about 38 seconds. Atlanta scored with 35 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but I was literally trying to process getting the game over with versus he said, they had the built-in mechanism where if he wasn't wide open, you slide and kick the field goal. Well, he was wide open.
Yeah.
I mean, do you call that play, though? Were you having visions of one William Burn the Boats Callahan and Terrence second to none?
Ooh. That didn't pop into my mind.
Was that Bill or was that Bo? Might have been Bo.
I think Terrence played most of his career under Bo.
Yeah,
he was recruited by Callahan.
I think that was Beauregard.
I think. I'd have to check.
Because that was Jamal. That was Jamal.
I'll take it.
Was that Jamal Lord? See, that era is really a blur for me because my personal life was a debacle.
Well, Jamal Lord didn't play for Callahan or Bo.
No, that's not what I meant to say.
Oh, okay.
What's the wideout that I liked? Texas A&M. Was that Purify? Anyway, I'm getting distracted.
Yeah.
But what I am saying is,
if
I remember saying, well, if none just hangs on to that, and people were like, you don't put him in that position. And then I was like, well, sometimes you have to play to win. You can't be conservative. A lot of coaches now want to get the game over, but it didn't work. And then I was like, well, when you have a chance to control the outcome of the game, a lot of times you should just do it. That seems like eons ago, but now we have these things called analytics, and coaches are quick to want to end the game when they have the football now, right? The book says, analytics say. So maybe the Terrence Nunn thing would have been received better, even though the outcome wasn't the desired one. How do you think Philly fans feel about Sirianni right now?
Oh, not good.
But that you.
But it's a results thing. It's not. It's a results thing.
I feel like that wasn't Nicholas's fault.
I don't either. So it's funny because Rule talked about this yesterday about
indirectly. Oh yeah.
The results versus being happy with the process.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that's what I mean. So that's the difference generally between fans and coaches and players. If you're good coaches and players, some bad coaches and players, and I don't mean bad as in not talented, but bad as in their process is flawed, play the results game too. Like that, those guys exist at the professional level, every level, right?
By the way, Ravi here for Diet Coke out of a can.
Yeah, important, my little guy here, but got ice in here. Keep it cold. I like the really cold beverages.
Yeah, I have to be careful today because I'm extremely thirsty. So I don't want to drink so much that I feel sluggish.
Yeah, gotta be careful.
Well, I didn't eat till 7, and I had a huge breakfast.
I didn't eat almost at all yesterday. I wasn't feeling great.
And I was very upset that apparently nobody in my house cares what I'm doing. So I
You can come hang out with me.
Per usual, left to kind of fend for myself.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, I'm a little Teflon.
You're an adult. You can figure it out.
Who told me did somebody tell me yesterday I needed elephant? Oh, Lamanji. He goes, man, you need rhino skin.
They'll toughen up.
I was like, what?
I care about you.
No, he was hammering one of the players I coached.
See, if you told me I need elephant skin,
And
I'd
I
be
was like,
is that an Indian thing?
look, man,
Yeah.
you're not just going to sit here and talk about my boy. He said, you're still on that blankety blank?
He's like,
you need some rhino skin.
He's like, you bet I am going to talk about your boy.
Yeah.
You see this? They see this in my title? It says head coach.
Yeah, I was going to say. So you know what I had to do? I had to get up and take a lap.
Go touch some grass.
Yeah. I was like, hey, I'll be back, guys. Carry on without me.
But that's the difference between the way a coach and a player thinks if they're doing well.
That looks sensational.
Versus how a fan thinks, right?
Squirrel.
I'm just gonna keep plowing along.
Squirrel. Did you see that breakfast burrito?
I'm just saying, if you get this thing off the rails, you know I've got a place to go, and I'm gonna go hard.
Are you? You're like chomping at the bit.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about a real thing first.
Okay.
But yeah,
I have to read you. Are we going with Denny?
We'll get there. I would imagine
Denny has some notes for us.
To answer your question, yeah, I'm sure he does. What's the Rich Rod quote?
Leave my friend Denny alone.
Everybody thinks they can coach football.
So that was his walk-off. So I think he doesn't take himself that seriously.
He does, though. No, he's I can tell. He's one of those guys that wants you to think he doesn't take himself that seriously, but actually does.
He's being serious.
Because you don't say.
Do you wonder why I talk to Denny?
All the time, every day.
I like Denny.
That's fine. That's great.
He's young. He's impressionable.
Yeah.
He did acknowledge that he does look like Dennis the Menace, though.
Guys that don't take themselves seriously don't say, oh, your guys' job is easy.
I haven't even gotten to that part yet.
Well, I did. I jumped the gun there a little bit.
I literally just told you that. That's the one thing you remembered?
Yeah, because that's like I'm in my field, but I don't want you to think I'm in my fields. That's 100% what that is.
Wow.
And he's young. He probably hasn't been to therapy yet, so he doesn't know that he's like being passive aggressive, or maybe he does and doesn't care.
Yeah.
That's fine. But like, I'm gonna add one in there to the Rich Rod quote. Every man thinks he can coach football, barbecue, and do a talk radio show. And I'm gonna be honest with you. There's a lot of people that do this for a living that can't do talk radio shows. Not gonna name any names, but it's a real thing. It's harder than it looks. We control the narrative, though, so it's
ridiculous.
Man, most of you can't talk to your spouse for 3 hours a day, much less some weird guy like DB or a goober like me.
Dude, somebody did call you a goober.
I know. It's great.
I felt so. Full disclosure.
All the time. What is it?
Oh, be quiet.
Oh, speaking of full disclosure, I got you today.
You got your own problems.
I got my full disclosure shirt on today.
What you got? I have that one too.
Yeah, full disclosure. Hurrdat Sports Radio.
I have that one.
Yeah. Here we go. It's your catchphrase.
But listen. So the results thing, was Sirianni versus what Coach Rule was talking about yesterday is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because when it turns out the way you want to, you don't have those.
Nobody thinks about it.
You don't have those qualms.
Nobody thinks about it at all when the result is what you want. It's when the result isn't what you want, which is why I thought it was good that he brought it up during a win. Because the result was what you wanted. For the most part. I know some people were mad about how it looked or whatever. But for the most part, is that you cover the spread, 31-point win. Not that Rule cares about the spread, but you know what fans do. And like you won by the amount you were supposed to win by, 34-3. It was a 30.5-point spread. Okay. So the result was what you wanted, but I think it's important to acknowledge, hey, the process wasn't where it needed to be. Because I remember, like, not to bring everything back to TO, I know that we have a problem with doing that in the state sometimes, but I used to remember how Osborne used to say, or you guys would say that Osborne would say, I don't know, that
Coach, you guys,
the former players,
okay,
would talk about how, we always focused on like, okay, if you do these things, then the wins will come.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I used to think when I was younger, less mature, I'm a little like Denny.
Damn.
See how easy it is when you can control the narrative.
Dang, my bad, Denny. My bad. We're going all Human Torch this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Flame on.
I mean, listen, my mentions don't look like they do, and you think I'm gonna be like all cuddly this morning.
So typically, I'm just gonna say this and move on. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. So when I get out of practice, I got a good coach. He's a fantastic babysitter. Sometimes I don't bring my phone out, but if I do, I give him my phone and my keys because I get very active and I don't like stuff in my pockets. Yeah. So I'm going back to the locker room and I look at my phone and I'm like,
how many notifications do you have?
What is going on? Like, who doesn't know that I'm at practice?
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, wait a minute. This isn't really about me.
So you were collateral damage.
I'm being tagged from a clip that had my name in it where
the only thing you did was get interrupted.
Boy, you were, yeah. I mean, I didn't know if that was like wood pellet, stick burner, just old charcoal and wood.
Yeah.
You were getting smoked like a cohiba.
Cohibas are a little overrated, but
God, dude went goober on you.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, it's fine. Like, it's the reason we're dumber as a country than we used to be.
Oh, wow.
Because, it's
Ravi here for doubling down.
Oh, 100%. Well,
how are the older guys going to take
it? It's context, right? Context matters, right? It's a 90-second clip. I get why we do it. It's for the internet. It performed well, obviously, right? Good job on the social team. But the context matters because if you only see the 90-second clip, first of all, I still don't know how you think I was talking. Like, my point was about 8-man football in that. Like, if you saw that, like,
you're off the proof of, you're like,
I'm obviously talking about Garrett McGuire and him being a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
And 8-man football just tangentially gets, I don't even say 8-man football in it, by the way. It just tangentially gets mentioned in it, right? So I don't know how you can watch that clip and be like, oh, yeah, that dude hates 8-man football, thinks they're garbage. But if you listen to the whole segment, you certainly don't come away thinking that at all. And when Shane's distracted,
I don't know what the world he's doing. It's a lot going on in here. Go sit your little narrow behind down somewhere. What do you say?
The camera unplugged?
That's awesome because people can't see how pissed you are.
I'm good. I'm in. I don't know what to tell you.
Who said that, Sasha? She's always mad.
It's all right. We'll figure it out. But the whole thing is, if you listen to the entire segment, there's no way on God's green earth that you think I'm talking about 8-man football as the point. I go ahead and compare it to Arena League football. Does that mean I hate Arena League football too? Does that mean I don't have any respect for Arena League football? No. We got the internet. We got more information at our fingertips than ever before, and we consume less context than we ever have. Because we're just like, oh, I saw a 30-second clip. I must know everything there is to know about this subject. Done. Good on me. I'm such a Berean. That one's for you.
Wow.
I don't know.
What a Dean Blandino. This doesn't have anything to do with me. Don't be dry. Don't.
Oh, my bad.
Don't bring me into.
This doesn't have to do with anything to do with you?
No.
No?
Do you know who you need as your attorney?
Who's that?
Daily Husker touchdowns.
Oh, yeah, that guy's got my back.
At Husker TDs, this dude is like locked.
Everybody that listened to the segment was like, what are you guys talking about?
He has a great avatar, too. People hate on this Herbie.
I like that Herbie. That Herbie's pretty good.
That Herbie is fire.
Sleek looking.
Yeah. Get your daily fix of random Husker touchdowns from years past.
Love it.
Yeah, that's my dude.
That's a great account to follow.
No disrespect if it's a lady. I'm sorry.
Travis says, you're a blank screen, but I can still hear snarky Ravi. Yeah, I don't know what just happened on the video. It's fine.
He says, I'm good.
Yeah. It's it's funny, though, because clearly I was not talking about 8-man football. Like, that was not the subject of what I was talking about. I was talking about Garrett McGuire. And if you think that 8-man football is the same as 11-man football, I got bad news for you. 8's not the same as 11. I'm not a math genius here, but I can do a little bit of addition and subtraction.
I cannot.
8's actually less than 11 by 3.
Wow.
9, 10, 11. So you're telling me if you got different number of players on the field, that feels like it might be a different sport. feels like there might be different rules. Oh, at least the field's the same size. Wait a second. No, it's not. Huh, strange. So we're not playing on the same size field. We're not playing with the same amount of players. It's possible we're playing a different game there. Is Arena League football the same as the NFL? No, it's not. You played in both. You would know. You've got firsthand experience.
Yeah, played both.
Does that mean I have any less respect for Arena League football? No.
Yeah.
Big Omaha beef guy. Love him. I'm sad the AFL was stupid and went away. They needed a different business operations manager they didn't have.
You'd like Lincoln Lance, which is funny because I wouldn't necessarily call him a huge Ravi fan.
That's okay.
But,
I'm not for everybody.
But he's kind of like, remember I told you I thought he was going to be snarky with the Bullock thing?
Yeah.
But he really wasn't. He was just like, and he typically always has good calls. He goes, please let Ravi Lulla know that 3-on-3 is real basketball. You know, like 8-man football is real football. I think he's riding with you here. Right? Like,
yeah.
And one thing I always like about him.
I kind of like Lance.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't have a problem
and
with
I
Lance.
always have. But it's weird because I know him when he's like a kid.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking middle school, elementary kid. But one thing he will do is he'll go back and listen or go back and watch. So even though he may have
context we were talking about, it's important.
Did you stop it?
Sorry.
Whose delivery is that?
I don't know.
Is context. Is context.
It's just me being a jerkwad.
So again, another made up word.
Oh, how are the older guys going to take it?
Jack Diddley and jerkwad.
That's how I don't swear on the air.
Bro, are you 90? Are you 90?
How are the older people going to take it?
Jerkwad? Do I even? No, I'm not even gonna go down that rabbit hole. What is a jerkwad?
I don't know.
This is like just like we're just being a jerk.
I don't know what a dip bleep is either. I still like it.
That's low
It's
key.
just a wadded up jerk.
That's low key a funny term.
It is a super funny term.
Yeah. Who did you call a dip bleep?
I don't know. A lot of people.
Oh no, you said Herbert's throw. You said that dip bleep throw.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. It's just one of those words like
most people don't say it very often, so like when you hear it, it kind of catches you off guard a little bit.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny though.
I didn't know how to text it to you, so I used
use the emoji. You go dip emoji.
well, the poop emoji, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
knew what you meant. It was funny.
I don't feel comfortable.
I told you that should be one of your new words.
No.
I thought like that's where you should start.
No. Yeah. That another one of your famous meltdowns. So like he went back, he sent me a screenshot of him like, by the way, he needs to have me over. Apparently he has a nice place, unless just where he mounts the TV looks nice. Cause I was like, shoot, that thing is huge. He was like literally going back to listen to the show,
which I appreciate.
So I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
But he didn't have any problems to begin with.
No, I don't think so.
But there were some very strong.
Like 90% of them were people who coached 8-man football, including the Nebraska 8-man Football Coaches Association. They're the ones that like really set it off. Because like people were a little mad before, and then they quote tweeted me, and they're like, "Ton of respect for DB, but Ravi's a clown." And
because I think so. In fairness, this doesn't have anything to do with you.
Okay,
I swear to goodness. Like I'm on record as being a huge fan. Like
I am too.
Even no, I'm
not on the record.
Not that, it's not that you're not.
Yeah.
Right. This doesn't have.
But you are a huge 8-man.
But I am a huge. I am.
Yeah.
Right. So I was just in stand. Right. And I always talk about, especially during the broadcast, I'm like, I'll be talking to LP or somebody. I'm like, I like the little intricacies. It seems simple, but I want to do this, and I like this blocking scheme. So, like, I'm notorious over the last however many years for being an 8-man honk. So I think,
but
it's like I always say, because I am
doesn't mean I'm not.
Doesn't mean you're not.
Because I love 8-man football, but all those things you talked about, little intricacies, the spacing's a little different, strategy's a little different. What's all that have in common? It's different than 11-man football.
Do you know why you could never be a teacher?
Oh, because I'm such a jerk.
You would get socked by a student.
Oh, or I'd sock a student, one or the other. Hands are flying one way or the other, and
You can't talk to me like that.
I mean, I can. somebody might catch some hands, but I can. Like, I understand. Like, that's my point, though, is like, I love 8-man football because it is different. Because there is some things that you see in 8-man football that it's a little more wide open. Like, I watch the 8-man state championships every year. I have since high school. I remember the first time I was watching them. I'm like 16. I'm watching them on PBS. I think it's because I was sick that day. And
Probably.
I'm like home at school. It happens a lot.
Faking.
You've seen it. It's not fake.
Yeah, I got that right.
I remember watching it. I'm like, this is incredible. I'd never seen 8-man before because, I'm 16. I live in Omaha. Like, where would I have seen 8-man football? So I'm watching on PBS as they're showing their Nebraska Public Television. I don't remember what it was called at the time. And they're showing the 8-man state championships and stuff in the middle of the day. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, this is great fun. I've watched it pretty much every year since.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I've never mistaken it for?
What?
11-man football. Not a single time. You know why? Because the end zone's not in the end zone. You're missing a couple guys, 3 to be exact. I know a couple sometimes means 2, so I wanted to clarify. You good?
I am good.
I'm good. We got a good show coming up today.
Yeah, fantastic.
We got some guests coming up. We're going to talk a little NFL. We're going to talk to Ryan Burns. He covers Minnesota for 24/7 Sports.
First of all, we're looking live.
We are
from the Pillars Exteriors.
We are looking live.
Stage.
If you'd like to tell me how much you love 8-man football, you can call 888-638-4876.
So can I get to that?
What?
Or do we have to wait till the next segment?
We're going to have to wait till the next segment.
Because Denny said some things that kind of hurt my feelings.
That's fine. I don't know why you talk to Denny. I'm gonna be honest with you.
You keep saying that.
Yeah, because he keeps saying stuff.
Denny's fine.
We're a 24/7
Dennis, but I can't call him Dennis because Dennis that called yesterday.
Yeah.
I like that Dennis too.
Also, the Dennis
I work with his brother.
The only Dennis I know, I'm a big fan of, so we got to call him Denny because I don't know if I'm a fan of Menace over here. Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7, coming up at 9. Alejandro Zuñiga coming up at 9:45 to talk Michigan. They've got the big game against USC this weekend. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. We'll be back. Maybe we'll have a camera too here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
Shane, can people see us yet?
I think I fixed it.
Yeah, that sucks.
I gotta say, I like Billy Wolf on Twitter. He's got my back. We appreciate Billy Wolf.
Yeah, he's got a little. Listen, I'm not an agent of chaos, but I do like when people have conviction.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
And it could be either way. It could be with something I disagree with. It could be with something I agree with. But like when you stand on business, and apparently Billy has your back.
We like Billy today.
Who's we? I don't even know if I know Billy.
I don't.
But there are personalities that I see on social media, and I was like, oh, I'd probably like that guy.
Yeah. Kel, the coach, says, if you hate 8-man, what are your thoughts on 6, Ravi? It's basketball on grass. We love it.
Bro, did you see your man TG?
Yes. He's coming for Stevens. Well, actually, crown. Well, actually, Brownell Talbot plays 8-man right here in Omaha. Apologize, bud. Wasn't
I'm 99.999% sure Tony doesn't talk like that.
No, I mostly like Tony too.
Usually Tony's bailing you out.
No, I appreciate Tony, and he's right. But I'm not, I'm not going to pretend like I was out there watching Brownell Talbot football when I was
515 Dave seems like a dude I would like.
Yeah, 515 Dave's usually got my back too. We like 515 Dave.
Yeah, we know some crazy Travises too. Like, do you like
Travis S has been popping off in the chat? He said something funny earlier.
That's Texas Travis, right?
On Twitter?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, he seems like he'd be certifiable. Yeah. You know, if you just kind of are trying to build, if I'm like,
well, speaking of
this is Criminal Minds and I'm trying to build a profile, Trav seems kind of out there.
He goes, what sport should we disrespect today, boys?
Yeah, see, he's that dude.
Ken says, I like 8-man because I can't count to 11. Fair.
This is wild. So can I say something, though? Because I feel like you're controlling the narrative.
Well, I mean, it's easy when you control the narrative.
Okay, so I am curious about this.
Okay.
This is legit.
Okay.
So I'm gonna mention Denny / Jimmy, but I am making a greater point.
Okay.
We say every day, 888-638-4876.
Correct.
Like you can hit us up,
Mhm.
right? Lincoln Land. Like there will be people that will call,
Mhm.
and if they don't like something, we'll talk about it,
Yep.
right? But I can say that and understand, okay, people do feel like we have a tremendous voice across the state. Okay. But this whole controlling the narrative thing is easy to get pushback from if you don't like it, right? Like we're super accessible.
Mhm.
So much so I was losing my mind last September, right? Like we're super accessible. Would you agree? Hit us up.
I mean, I had 14 Twitter notifications during the break.
Right.
Like just during the break. And that's
super
not even
accessible.
talking about the YouTube that I can't even get to most of them.
So I don't think Denny was like super happy, but he's not. I don't think he's mad. Okay. I know. But
Maybe.
okay.
Maybe.
So we.
I'm listening.
Okay. So he's like, I didn't bring my glasses in, so I almost have to screenshot
You have to
this
zoom in.
and then blow it up. This is so sad. So he goes, you guys can disagree all you want. No problem with that. If you don't think you and Ravi sensationalize things, you know me, this sensationalizer,
Yeah.
then I don't know what to tell you. I don't even think you've answered one of my questions. You guys can call me whatever you want. Ha ha ha. I used to get called Peanut when I actually looked like Dennis the Menace. So that's the part that lets me know he's cool, right? Like he's okay with that. But this part was a little weird. He goes, glad I could give you boys content. I hope that you and Ravi realize how easy your jobs are. Ha ha ha. Now I'm not doing the ha ha ha.
Yeah,
he's doing the ha ha ha. You can control every narrative that you want to discuss. It's easy. What's Dave Bartu or McClintock think of SAT? Which, stop right there.
Yep.
Not only did I send him the eval, we talked about it real time last week.
On air. And you tweeted it out while we were talking about it on air.
On the same graphic same graphic I sent him. And I said that your disdain for SAT is simply not true. Numbers show
that he's improved.
He improves.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. You're 1, 2, 3.
Now, however you feel about that is whatever, right? I said that. There's no sensationalism in that. But this is the funny thing. And he goes, funny, you never mentioned that, huh? ? Which, okay, yeah, we do. We mention it a lot. I also hope that you and Robbie realize how easy your jobs are. You control every narrative you want to discuss. You can razz me all you want. Doesn't bother me. Again, my opinions are that wide receiver play, the OC, and special teams will hurt us when we play real teams. We'll find out soon enough. But again, you'll get to control whatever narrative you want to. It's easy. Like we can get pushback, right? Better yet, if Nebraska misses 6 field goals and has a 31-yard net punt average, or
you think we're gonna be like, oh,
wide receivers drop 4 balls, you think like what do you think I'm gonna say?
I feel like you're gonna feel some kind of way about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna feel some type of way about that.
I feel some kind of way about it.
Right? Like, do we
also like? Is he?
I get the voice. I get big voice. I do. I'm like, okay. I understand the power and the responsibility that comes with talking to the state, the platform.
Yeah.
But controlling the narratives?
Only statewide show in the state, just by the way, in case anybody was wondering.
But I got to do you one more. Because and this is my guy. So and he's not saying, I don't know what he's saying. But
I don't think he does either, for the record.
No, this is my man El Guapo.
Okay.
And we've talked a ton, and you're gonna be like, why do you talk to these people? Do you know why though? Because I'm in the business. Like,
you like collecting information.
I do.
That's how I take it.
And I like helping too.
But
so like if people want to talk to me and they want to ask me about stuff,
100%.
I'm cool. Like I try to respond to almost every
You do. That's how we started talking.
Appropriate DM.
Yeah.
Okay. So my man El Guapo says, and I'm curious because this was on the heels of what my man Denny said. He said, a part of the receiver convo is the hype around them in the preseason. All my info comes from online streaming, primarily you and your guys' show, and a little bit of Rivals. A lot of hype was placed on Lloyd and to some extent Coleman. I'm kind of confused by Coleman's red shirt, especially with him being a very good blocker, which is neither. I didn't take that to task. With Lloyd's expectations as a breakout player at a high level as a Big Ten receiver, I don't think they're hiding him for later. Mostly, he is what he was last year, a deep ball threat. He also gets special plays last year that seem to now be going to Barney.
One thing real quick.
Go ahead.
Neither of us were hyping up Malachi Coleman.
I don't even talk about Malachi Coleman.
We actually, I think, used him as a guy that might get passed. Him and Jaden Doss until Jaden Doss moved.
Last year. Yeah.
Like in this, well, from the start last year.
I didn't want to belabor that point because I don't think.
I'll move on. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Okay.
We have talked about Jalen Lloyd, though.
Yeah.
And I would just point out, how many times yesterday or in the last few days or whatever have we heard Rule talk about the non-conference as preseason? Right? He refers to it as the preseason.
Yeah.
He coached in the NFL, right? Matt Rule?
Yeah.
How do NFL coaches How do NFL coaches treat the preseason?
Well, it's like practice.
Yeah, a lot of guys don't play in the preseason, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just keep that in mind. If Jalen Lloyd doesn't play for the next month, sure. Let's have that conversation.
But you know what my main takeaway from that is?
What?
Is Jalen Lloyd not good? Maybe
maybe Ja'Cory Barney's just better?
Maybe.
Like,
we don't even know.
Right, because it's preseason. Although I don't see anybody coming at Coach Rule for calling this the real season, and Colorado's not mad. I don't know. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. If you're driving to work, make sure you've got your seatbelt on and make it click. It prevents injuries and saves lives, but only if worn properly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Here.
I have my vehicle back. I can
on the
click
pillar
it just
exterior
fine.
state. Well, you could click in the other vehicle too. It's not like it was like from the 60s and
So
didn't have seatbelts.
It's kind of from the 60s.
It really was not. It was older than your car, but it wasn't pre-seatbelt old.
The ding was deafening.
Yeah.
Dong.
Your seatbelt's not fastened ding?
Yes.
Yeah, they've made those so annoying that I'm sure you can turn them off, but like it's not, even if I didn't want to wear a seatbelt, I don't even know, like the ding would just be like, forget it, I'm doing it.
I know. And I know what people are thinking. We'll just put it on and it won't make the noise. Well, what happened was I hadn't taken my sport coat off yet, and I didn't want to put the seatbelt on over my suit. Although it wasn't really a suit. But a couple quick things.
Yep.
First of all, Degenerate Aaron told you to stop being so condescending.
I've tried. I can't.
I know. So I'm gonna take him out. We're gonna hang out. But so I'm gonna explain to him, like, if I don't get mad, he shouldn't get mad.
Yeah.
In general, like
I'm worse to you than I am to anyone.
To anyone.
And you still show up every day.
And it's totally fine.
Because like where I'm coming from.
Yeah. So I gotta talk him off the ledge.
Like, I'm a ride or die.
Now,
and so you don't care when
Lincoln,
I talk like
I don't
crazy.
know if Lincoln Lance is ever gonna come around, but I'm gonna keep working on him too.
That's all right.
But we do need that yin and yang for the temperament, the flow. The other thing is with my man El Guapo, the point I'm trying to make in that is there's nothing like, why all of a sudden are the wide receivers an issue?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why they're an issue?
Why is that?
Because Coach Rule talked about blocking on the perimeter.
Mm-hmm. And then we turned it into not just blocking on the perimeter, but we're like, now they can't get open and whatever. And that's
I'm
other
like,
thing.
Okay. So then I had to say my little deal yesterday about the completion percentage.
Mm-hmm. 73, 74% for the season?
Yeah.
Who's catching those?
And there's been a variety of different catches. Like, not everybody
but mostly
is
receivers.
Britt Musburger, right?
Yeah.
Wide open. Like, there's been some good catches, right? The touchdown, the Banks in the corner, the little dig route, the square in, the Banks caught the other night.
That was a really good catch. Good throw, too, but really good catch.
So it's like, okay. I mean, Nair's had a couple nice ones.
He's got a couple touchdowns on the season.
Yeah, how about how they caught them in that safety blitz?
Mhm.
And his adjustment, see, this will fly under the radar, but while I'm on it, I want you guys to go back and look at the easy one that Nair got the other night. He settled down right where the safety vacated. That wasn't his route.
Right.
He kind of chilled.
It's a read between him and Raiola.
And Dylan saw it,
Yeah.
so he kind of broke it off. It kind of he just was like, "Oh, I'm open."
Because Dylan knew if the safety was coming from there.
Why keep running?
Yeah.
So that was pretty good.
Yeah.
We just look at it like,
oh, he's open. Blown coverage, whatever.
So I say all that to say, I understand with great power comes great responsibility.
All right, Uncle Ben.
But I also want my man El Guapo to know, because we do talk. Like I went back, like we chit chat.
Mhm.
I also want him to know, like, if you guys want the insights and opinions, they are insights and opinions. So the whole day yesterday, with the whole controlling the narratives and stuff like that, it made me think: is this why we can't have nice things?
Yes.
No. Maybe. See, that's the low-hanging fruit answer. But I don't want to absolve ourselves of responsibility either.
Well, I don't think it's just an us issue either. Like, I think it's...
Well, I get all my information
Kinda
from
all
the
the
media.
media.
I get all
Yeah.
and I'm like, you can do with that what you will. Would you rather, like, which... I'm in the solutions business, right? So what other way would you rather have it? You don't
you
hear
want
anything?
no insight and information? You want no insight and opinions?
Or not?
Because that's the other option. That's the only other option.
Because that's what I think this is about, handling, like a...
So here's what I think it really is we've gotten to this place, not just in sports or whatever, but I don't want to make a bigger issue, is we want insights and opinions, but we want the ones that we agree with. Like, we want the insights and opinions that match what we already think a lot of times. And not everybody. I think it's actually a pretty small minority, but those are the people that we hear from a lot that are mad about certain things. It's because they're never mad when they agree with you. They're never mad about the insights when they agree with you.
But even our stream is a circus.
Oh, yeah.
And not everybody agrees.
No, for sure.
But it is highly entertaining.
Love it. I love our stream. Our YouTube comments are great. It's incredible.
Let's go to Lincoln Lance. Shane, punch up line 2 and see what my man Lincoln Lance has got on his mind this morning. Lincoln Lance, were your ears burning?
Yeah, they are. I've been listening, and something that I rewatched the show yesterday and took some notes, and then went and looked at a few stats.
God, here we go. Here we go.
Here we
go.
Damn it.
I think it's a context thing. I think people get frustrated and then they voice their opinion without really giving you guys enough of the context. So, I'm undecided on Satterfield.
Me too.
I've been undecided for a while, and I go and look at things like second half scoring. Last year we played Minnesota, Colorado, and NIU in what Ravi, you called that preseason, right? So we played.
Rule called it preseason. Rule called it preseason.
And we scored in the second half about 15 points per game in those 3 preseason games.
Yep.
This year we've scored about 7 on average, which I would say we've scored 7 with better quarterback play. So while I think we've shown that first half, our scripting of our plays has been pretty good. Now you may want to say we have our backups in, but maybe you're right, Ravi. Maybe Ja'Cory Barney is good, and so Jalen Lloyd's the backup. I don't know, but I just feel like there are times when I don't necessarily understand, especially in the second half, what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think the wide receiver issue is a narrative thing. I think when we heard of Banks and Nair, people expected great things. We had heard how great Jalen Lloyd looked, and maybe they are expecting big plays. I don't know. Maybe they're just not seeing them. The completion percentage is really good, but I'm just undecided there still, and maybe that makes me hypercritical, but that's where I'm at.
I don't think undecided is hypercritical, Lance. I like that you're trying to bring in context, but let's bring in a little more context with the preseason games, right? So last year, Nebraska not scoring in the second half was a problem because they were trailing in those games, right? Nebraska hasn't been ahead by less than 3 scores at halftime yet this year. So the not scoring, while the numbers may be the similar or worse,
That's funny.
is a
talk about that.
very different context. You know what I mean? So it's fair. We need to see something that's more similar in terms of Nebraska's close at half or Nebraska's losing at half, I think, before we can make a direct comparison and be like, ooh, I'm really worried about the second half scoring. But I think, again, I'm undecided.
Because we've never played with a lead. They do have
Last
a little
year,
bit.
yeah.
They do have a little bit of an NFL mentality. Let me ask you something, Lance. For proof to be in the pudding, do you kind of quietly hope Nebraska has to like come from behind or play in a tight game before you get proof of concept?
No, what I think I want to see is a level of consistency, more of a complete game for all 4 quarters. And even
you have to be in one though. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. I don't know. I still don't know how well this team will play from behind. I mean, that's one thing of, looking at this. I just don't know how well. I mean, that may be a thing where you want to see when the iron is in the fire, you kind of want to see how they react. But I don't know. I just don't get the sense that just something that I'm missing from this offense. When I played long time ago in high school, when the backups got in, they were so excited to play that they would want to make plays. And so to me, with how the first and third games went, I don't know, the lack of, scoring. I mean, when you played Damon, second and third team tried to still score. And maybe trying is not the right word. But I just don't know if it's a depth issue or a play calling issue or anything like that. It's just a little odd to me that we've seen this struggle kind of carry over. Because I think it was half the games last year we scored 7 or fewer points. And even when his average points per play with Rattler was under 0.4 points per play. So I don't know. Maybe
right now they're at like 0.456 or 0.46.
Yep.
Right. So that's pretty good.
It is. I mean, last year they were like 118th. The only team that has similar improvement is Indiana, who I think is like, I mean, they played UCLA, right? So that they played a pretty easy, quote unquote, preseason game too. So I'm just hoping, this thing looks good going into the middle of the year. And my tackling thing, this weekend was more or less like, from your perspective, was you and I doing something?
Yeah, I understood you.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was
I
like,
understood
we love
you.
the
I
tackling.
didn't think you were being. You were good. That was totally fine.
Appreciate the call, Lance.
All right, have a good day, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
TK, hang on there. We've got an open segment at 8. We'll get to you coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Man, Joshua's weighing in. Let's go, Triple B.
We'll be back with more. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar exterior stage. I don't know what DB's doing, but
apparently you can't do that. That's a flag.
Can't do what?
You can't act like you're. That's the second guy.
Yeah.
Having once in college.
Yep.
And once in the pros. Stop pretend shooting guns, fellas.
Yeah, don't do that. Also, don't for real shoot guns either. Just
unless you're going hunting or at the range.
Yeah, that's fine. In appropriate spaces, Let's get to TK.
I love how these guys. We got some heavy hitters, man.
Let's get to TK real quick, and then I want to reset the conversation we were having with Lance.
I mean, he asked about Adam. Adam chimed right in.
Yeah.
But still,
I
want Denny to call. Denny's a nice person. I think you don't think he's very nice. He's fine.
I don't know why you talk to him. TK, let's get to TK real quick, and then we can reset the conversation we're having with Lance. TK.
All right, fine.
What's going on, man?
Good morning, fellas.
Hello,
the
TK.
Chinese water torture.
Is that the slow drip thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of what your guys' hold music is like. I'm at the gym, and I just saw somebody with a free TK shirt like I'm Ferris Bueller.
TK, what do you want, man?
Well, first off, I want to ask if you're like me, CB, and you, since you're a sicko and like press conferences, have you heard Brett Bielema's comments about sports writers and weathermen?
I think Bielema is fantastic. So the pressers,
he's wonderful.
because BTN, sweet baby Jesus, like took care of all the pressers yesterday. I had those bad boys in the library. I got a couple of clips from Signetti too, since everybody's now worried about Indiana. My man went Mickey Mouse on the officiating crew. He's incredible. Well, but we'll get to him later.
I think his dad is one of the first people to ever use that phrase, like Mickey Mouse organization. You can go back and find it from the 80s.
Yeah. Like he is. I said it in Indy, and people kind of were like, well, it's Bloomington. What's he supposed to do? And I'm like, you guys don't understand. This dude is like pretty reckless, and he believes every bit of what he's saying.
I'd like to refer to this whole.
That's why I don't mind it. It's because he does believe it.
Yeah, I thought for as much as Indiana could, they stole the show at Big Ten Media Days.
If I'll give you a lot of leeway if I think you're being authentic. I really will.
Yeah. But anyway, go ahead, TK. Illinois in the front seven.
Yeah,
ours or theirs?
Theirs. I don't worry about our defense. Our defense knows they're going to see 15,000 ways of how to run power and counter and trap. They're fine. They're going to be okay.
And he doesn't run like a big back. He doesn't run behind his pads. So
our defense should be fine.
I think his running style is different than Amari and Ty Edwards, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think that their front seven is significantly worse, but they're better on the edges. So this kind of reminds me of the Purdue team last year, if they were just like had better overall discipline.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know what you guys think of that, but also if we go back to that Bielema quote, he should have added, radio talk show hosts, because your guys' job is so easy. You don't even got to be right. So you fit in right in there with weathermen and sports writers.
Yeah. Thank you for the. I feel like that was a pack pat, but I don't know. It's TK.
It's hard to tell with TK sometimes.
Appreciate it.
Just for the record, our guy Adam McClintock chimed in on Garrett McGuire.
Yeah.
He was actually a net positive coaching last year with that room. They don't have the stats on him yet this year because we've only played the preseason. But like they take into account talent. McGuire's fine. Like
I guess I'm shocked this is a thing.
I don't understand it at all.
I really am. I'm not just
no. I don't get it.
And I don't. I mean,
outside of
anybody's listening long, and I'm not just going to say to be saying it. I can't believe this is a thing.
Outside of the one comment,
but I do totally understand why Rule said what he said.
Yeah, because the blocking wasn't very good that game, especially.
So he can't just say that.
Yeah, that doesn't mean the entire group is trash. You have to just throw everybody out.
I don't know, man.
We need to get a little better. It's honestly,
what's the yards per completion?
I'd have to look it up.
It's double digits.
It's pretty good.
We went through points per play, right?
Well, yes, and just for what it's worth, Nebraska scored 34 points against Northern Iowa on 48 plays. Go do the math on that.
I'm just a little because
it's almost,
and you're not making a bold statement if you say, well, wait till conference play, it's gonna get tougher.
Well, duh.
No bleep, right?
Like
that's what happens.
That's why Coach Rule calls it preseason versus the real season.
So I don't. I'm willing to listen, man. It's whatever. But to reset, you want to get to B or reset?
Let's reset the conversation real quick.
Okay.
So basically,
because I think we're comparing apples to oranges.
Yes. This is to go back to Lance's point about scoring in the second half, right?
I did not think Lance would get the vitriol he's getting.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people made the same observation I did, which is we're talking about two totally different things here. Nebraska didn't score in the second half last year because Nebraska couldn't score last year. That wasn't isolated to the second half. Nebraska couldn't score, and they needed to. They were down a lot frequently, especially in the second half, and they could not score to win games. We saw that over and over again.
You do realize that Nebraska has doubled their percentage on drives they've scored on compared to last year.
That's pretty good.
Doubled.
That's a lot more. It's twice as much.
Doubled.
It's 100% more.
Okay. I just want to start there.
100%. And the other thing,
26% last year.
if we're focusing on second half scoring, the context of that scoring matters. Not being able to score in the second half when you're behind and have to score is a problem. Not scoring in the second half when you're up by 3 scores at halftime isn't necessarily a problem. I'm not saying it's not, but it's not yet.
Did you need for those games, which is why I asked Lance. I
Yeah.
just wanted to get his perspective. Like, so do you want to see them play a close game?
I don't want them to, but I don't think we'll know until they do. Is that fair? Can both those things be true?
Yeah, because I just think we have a lot of revisionist history.
Like, I would much rather Nebraska just beat the brains out of everybody and we never find out. I can live with never knowing if that's the reason, right? Just beat everybody's heads in. It's like, all right, cool. Yeah, I guess I never know if they can score in the second half or not. I can live with that. But we aren't going to know if the second half scoring is improved until they are in a close game in the second half. Because I genuinely don't believe, and I'm not saying they're not trying to score in the second half, but I genuinely don't believe they're going to call a game in the way where they're just going to run it up on people. I don't think that's what they're doing, especially because they're trying to get guys reps.
You know what's funny?
What's
do
that?
Do you know who didn't play against Colorado?
Who?
Carter Nelson.
Not on offense, no.
Do you know who did play against Northern Iowa?
Carter Nelson.
Okay.
Scored a touchdown. I don't know if you saw it.
Just for example, por ejemplo.
Yeah.
Right? For example.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
There's a method to that madness.
Yeah. This is a developmental program. How many times, like Riley Van Poppel's redshirting?
Oh, no, I know.
Like, how many times do we have to do this where he goes out of his way to show you that development?
He's playing the long game.
Yes.
And I'm
didn't he
gonna say one more thing about Lloyd.
He's doing the right thing versus doing the
I
easy
think
thing.
I said this yesterday.
Yeah.
I think I said this when he was recruited. I think I said this when he was signed. This doesn't have anything to do with the fact that's my guy, or he played at Westside or Central or wherever.
Yep.
Real easy. Take the school out of it, take the player out of it in terms of his name. He is a guy that has been a wide receiver for 2 years.
Junior, senior year of high school, right? Or just senior year?
Just senior
Yeah.
year. They
And
threw
then
him the
freshman.
ball his junior year.
Right.
But he was hurt a ton.
Yes.
Like route running, the concepts, that stuff, just 1 year. He didn't enroll early. He is a full year younger for his grade. He is 18 years old.
And he also runs track in the spring.
So I say all that to say,
Right? Like that matters too, right?
I've seen better days. He's going to get a lot better. But I said this when the receivers came out. He will be the dark horse of the bunch of that year, and it included all those guys because he has the most upside and he doesn't need a babysitter. So all that stuff is going to come. But we talk as though like he hasn't been productive. That's what I don't get.
40 yards per reception. 41 and a half, I think, technically.
So the little cover 2 throw, it wasn't a beater because Dylan had to scramble. But there's a safety over the top. There's a corner underneath. Jalen just didn't lose his mind. He sat his little narrow behind down there on the sidelines. I'm open. Dylan found him. You don't really do that without knowing the concepts and what's going on. Right? So if he catches the ball that they threw him on the wheel route, are we having this conversation?
Probably not.
Okay, because
let's go even further. If Dylan gets the ball on the crazy Mahomes throw, if he gets that ball to the end zone instead of having him come back in, are we having this conversation? We're talking about like the difference of 3 yards, but it's like, ooh, that's a 60-yard touchdown pass to Jalen Lloyd instead of it's a 57-yard pass turns into a Dowdell.
Yeah, I guess I just don't get it. Like we're down on Banks. we're down on Banks. How many targets does he have?
Not a lot. He occupied Travis Hunter for a whole game, though.
I don't.
Can I say that there's value in that without trying to shape the narrative?
It's not. If you're telling the truth,
like there's value in occupying Travis Hunter for a whole game, right?
Yeah.
Jamal Banks did that. Jamal Banks is good enough that he did that.
And let's not act like Colorado doesn't have a pair of corners that'll be playing on Sundays.
100%.
Okay.
One of them is going to be drafted in the first 5 picks. That's Travis Hunter. Colorado.
It's not a narrative, and it's not in defensive. I'm just
Colorado's defense.
I'm telling you what's going on.
Colorado's defense was better than we all expected.
Yeah.
Who has really good corners. They're really good on the perimeters.
Do you know what you don't see Ja'Cory Barney running?
What's that?
Like dig routes.
Nope.
Do you know he runs shallow crosses, verticals, and
kind of the gadget
plays.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
How do we know about Ja'Cory Barney's route running?
We have no idea.
We have zero.
We know he is dynamic with the ball in his hands.
It's just amazing how
fast as hell. That's
like
it.
we just can't have nice things.
He might be a great route runner. We have no idea.
We're already looking for something to be upset about, and it hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah.
We're literally comparing Nebraska's futile offense a year ago to second half offense this year as some sort of an indictment on SAT, as if you don't have to learn how to play and take time off the clock in real football.
I'm glad you brought that up, the taking the time off the clock.
Why are you glad?
Because I've actually been thinking about this since Saturday, and maybe I'm overthinking it, which is entirely possible. I'm willing to hear that. But the 2-minute drill at the end of the first half on you at UNI, or against UNI, did you feel like after they got past midfield, they changed their play calling to waste more time? Because Rule had just said
it wasn't to waste more time.
No, just to try and burn more time off the clock. Not waste, you know what I mean? Yeah. To try and use more of the 2 minutes.
So real time.
Because Rule said earlier in the week, the only thing Dylan didn't do right in the 2-minute drill the week before when they scored against Colorado was he didn't use enough time.
Yeah.
And then they had 2 big chunk plays right away, and you're like, oh man, they're going to score with 40 seconds left. Rule doesn't want that.
They ran the ball in between.
They ran the ball, and then they were in another short, little pass.
What is going on?
And I'm like, oh, in real time, I'm like, oh, that's because they want to use more time.
I said to Sharpie on the broadcast, I go, there's this part of me that knows Coach Rule's personality where he's trying to do one of two things. He either wants to see Alvano kick a field goal under duress, or he wants to continue the trend of scoring 3 straight times at the end of a half. Like that's real time what I thought.
But he wanted to do it. He wanted to score, I thought.
What did he say yesterday, though, in the presser? Hey, 4th and 3, we're going to have to make that play to get points at some point in this season. So I said, hey, Dylan, go make a play.
Yeah.
Like, he's playing the
long game.
He's playing the long game.
Like, there's going to be a time in which you need to use every bit of that 2 minutes in order to score and win a game. And so
you think Philly didn't want to give the ball back to Atlanta last night?
100%. What we just talked about yesterday with Mahomes. I get there's no Mahomes on the schedule, right? But that doesn't mean you don't have guys capable of running a 2-minute offense on the schedule. Like, you want to give Miller Moss?
How many times did you get beat on a final possession last year? You think they're not thinking about that?
How you really want to give Miller Moss or Will Howard the ball back with 45 seconds left with a chance to win the game? No, you want to run that thing out, score, and win and go home.
Yeah.
Right? So he put him in a position to have a chance to practice that in real time.
It's just weird.
Let's get to out of breath Brian here. Says fans are scared. I think he might be right.
You mad?
No, I'm good.
Just keep listening to Daily Husker Touchdown. He's got your back.
I love this team. Brian, what's up?
What's going on, fellas?
Hi, B.
Hey, and then before I get to my main point, I'm talking about that penalty that the receiver got for shooting the gun. Do quarterbacks get penalties when they do the tucking of the guns in the holsters?
Oh, good point.
Just a question.
I think they're promoting putting the guns away rather than shooting them in the air.
Don't matter. Still guns. Guns. It's guns.
Was that South Carolina LSU?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, South Carolina LSU. He did the same thing.
A lot of quarterbacks do. I just saw somebody do that. And then well, I'm listening to you guys talk about fear of success, what it sounds like to me. You guys remind me because, my dad.
Who's you guys?
The preacher.
Me?
people in just Nebraska, not
Okay,
you.
fans. Okay.
But
okay.
yeah, just people, the Lance type of people that talk. My dad's a preacher. He'd take me around a whole lot to work with different people in prisons, group homes, people who've been victims of abuse. That's what the guys sound like. Sound like some girl who just met has been a victim of abuse, and she meets some good, genuine guy, but she's all messed up in the head because she's always expecting something bad to happen because she's been abused or he's been abused. But since we always associate abuse with women, and it doesn't ever happen to men, I'll just use women. But that's what it seems like. You guys always expected something bad to happen. Okay, I can't deal with you people. Okay, if I had met a girl like that, I would break up with her because I think she got something loose in the head because of the bad things that happened to her. That's what you guys on. Get over it. You guys, I want you guys to realize second half, it looks like to me, we've been doing what a developmental program is going to do. There's some things that we're doing, working on because we already got the game locked up. Because you guys want the point spread to be covered. Okay, be real about it. You want the point spread to be covered, and it may not have been of your liking.
Which it has been every
it.
game, by the way. Like, they have covered every game for what it's worth. They're 3-0 against the spread, just.
Yeah. I mean, you want that. If you want big blowouts also to look like you're just like Tennessee or Texas is blowing out, wait till next year.
Well, did Tennessee have 66 at the half?
Yeah. Tennessee only scored.
And they finished with 71.
Tennessee only scored 5 points in the second half. What's wrong with Tennessee?
No, it was wrong. Alabama scored. South Alabama scored 87 points on somebody last week.
And Indiana ran it up on Western Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the top teams are doing. So I can understand people wanting to see that because that's what other top teams are doing. But as far as like this weekend goes with Illinois, like I told your friend a while ago on the other station, man, we beat this team last year in Illinois by 13 points with Harburg as the starting quarterback. With all those turnovers, I'm going to degenerate this weekend is going with an alternate line just to let you know. All right.
What is it? 10, 11, 12?
No, I'm greedy. I'm about to go 13 and a half.
Ooh.
Two. I'm going 13 and a half.
How much plus money is that, B?
I believe that's when I saw it last, I believe it was 122.
Jeez.
It may have been 122. I'm gonna see if it went up. But I mean, I'm taking
out of breath, Brian, for thinking 8.5 isn't big enough.
No, 9.5 points. That to me, that means that's 3 scores. 3 times we was in the red zone, we couldn't score with the quarterback we had. I think the quarterback we have can at least go 2 for 3 in the red zone in those instances this year. I'll take that. You guys rest easy this weekend to get ready. Watch this game and get lit up for Friday night. Yeah, fun. I'll talk to y'all later.
I'll take it.
Appreciate it, Brian.
Well, I wanted to tell B that Wendy's has a breakfast burrito. He can take some of his winnings and
I saw a commercial for it. I don't know how.
get me one of those.
Dave Fight chimes in.
I like Dave.
He says,
Dave's been a good contributor.
how much of the consternation over Nebraska's second half production is people looking for a reason to hate on Satterfield?
Okay, so I'm glad he said that because remember last week, that's how I felt it was. I don't know if I said it more on air or off.
Yeah.
But I feel like people rather be right than get it right. So that's how they watch the game. Because I think they have an opinion and they want confirmation. I don't think they're like just watching it to watch. Because
they're coming in.
We hate context, right? Like the play call.
Confirmation bias.
Look at the statistical data.
Yeah.
You would take those numbers isolated in a third quarter every day that ends in Y. I got them burned in the back of my head. Double check me. 9 carries, 51 yards. You take that. 7 of 10 passing for 44 yards. That includes 100 yards of plays that were called back. Like you were 0 of 3 on third down. What was wrong with the concepts?
Nothing. They just need to convert on third down.
What was wrong?
Or not have the penalties.
And again, see, the narrative is that I'm vouching for Satterfield. The fact of the matter is Nebraska has to own their own problems within the constraints of what they were trying to do. If you don't have the penalties, we're not talking about the plays.
Yeah. 100%. Like, it's that simple. It's literally that simple. Nebraska's been closer to hanging 50 on each of their opponents than they have been to losing the game. That's a fact.
Correct.
Like, that's
correct.
Dead stop.
That's fine.
So I'm like, Do you just not like him?
Are we
Like,
really that?
I get it.
Yeah.
But just tell me so I know what I'm, because then I can stop trying to be
So
rational.
this is a thing that, and
I don't know. And I said that I don't listen. I don't know if he's going to be SC Norm Chow. I do know you shouldn't make up reasons to have that, be the reason for treason. Like, let it play out.
yeah, that's a big problem that you have when you're having these conversations with people, whether it's about football or whatever else, right? Is people try, and rather than they feeling the way the facts would point them to, they try and find the facts that justify their feelings, right? And that's a dangerous road to go down because you end up being wrong a lot and you end up sounding stupid a lot.
I just don't know why we can't just listen to understand versus listening to respond.
Or listen to confirm. A lot of people listen to confirm what they already think.
Like, well, I don't know.
Like, people listen to confirm or listen because they want confirmation on their own opinions already. That's not how life works. That's going to end up with you in a bad spot.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't know if Sat's the guy or not. I don't. What I do know is we don't know yet.
And we can't be comparing last year to this year.
No, because he was doing surgery on a train, like Rule likes to say. Like,
you also can't isolate quarterback play from wide receiver play. We're taking what Coach Rule said about them needing to get to Dylan's level.
Yeah. Which, by the way, he didn't even just say about the wide receivers. He said that about everybody.
And I think needs a little more context, too.
Kim, hang on the line here. We'll get to you coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and going to tell you about an upcoming show at Steelhouse Omaha. Dane Cook is coming to town on his tour, Fresh New Flavor. You probably remember him from his stand-up specials like Vicious Circle and Retaliation, but he's back with Fresh New Flavor. Make sure you get to steelhouseomaha.com. The show is September 29th. That's a Sunday at 7:30 p.m. to see Dane Cook live here in Omaha. That's steelhouse.com for tickets. All right, before we hop back into this and get people mad and get us mad, let's talk to Kim real quick, who wants to talk about whether or not we can have nice things, I think. Kim, what's going on? Kim?
Did we lose Kim?
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
she just dropped off.
Oh,
come on, Shane.
I wonder if she's coming to breakfast.
She came last week.
I know.
Or last time.
She kind of just sat in the corner.
Chilled in the corner, had her
minding her own business.
Minding her P's and Q's.
Think she had a drink?
Did your mom ever say that?
P's and Q's?
Yeah. I just minding my P's and Q's.
No.
I don't know what it means.
I talked to her yesterday. She was so cute. Her go-to grocery store, the prices have gotten higher, so she was a little taken aback.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
it's a little cutie pie.
It happens.
But anyway, so this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Okay.
And I like Dan. Dan and I go way back.
Kim's
He's
back, by the way.
kind of a texting buddy. Or not texting, tweeting buddy. Every now and again, though, he says things that I'm like, really? He's responding to Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Dave said about the kind of the hating on Satterfield thing. So my man Dan said, I've not heard that angle this week. I don't know that people love Sat, but I would consider it an offensive consistency and chemistry issue, not play calling. For me, the concern is how pedestrian Nebraska's wide receivers have looked. I'm like, pedestrian. Let me go back and just check statistically.
Okay.
Nebraska only has 3 wide receivers that play a fair amount that are averaging less than 10 yards a catch.
Mm-hmm.
Carter Nelson at 9.9. The new Tyreek Hill, according to a lot of people, Ja'Cory Barney, at 6.8. And Janarian Bonner, who Denny asked me, what does Barney do well?
Bonner. What does Bonner
do well?
Yep.
I'm like, I'm not even answering that question. I wasn't mad. I just wasn't going to entertain it. 2 of those 3 wide receivers, we would hardly consider pedestrian.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we really saying? See, that's context.
And data.
Right? And
hard data.
And sometimes I don't always love data, but data this time proves my point. Because Barney is arguably the most explosive player of the bunch.
Yeah.
But he only averages less than 7 yards per. Why do I say all that? Well, we talk about route running and separation. How do we know Barney is electric? Is it possibly because when we watch him catch the ball and where he gets the ball, the staff is doing a good job of playing to his strengths? Because it's certainly not the statistical output.
No, certainly not.
Is it?
I don't think so.
I haven't made up one thing.
I don't think it is. I don't think anybody is upset with Barney's statistical output.
But it's only 6.8 per.
Right. The only thing I would say is maybe some people are like they wish he got the ball more.
Guess what? Maybe. But guess what else? For a guy that's still learning to be part of the route tree, it's let's not put him in that situation yet. Let's just play to his strengths for the time being.
Same thing with Carter Nelson.
Right?
They're playing to Carter Nelson's strengths because he's new to the position.
But because Lloyd is a little bit ahead.
And new to real football.
And is a little bit ahead. And they use him outside the numbers more. Route running is a little bit more of a priority.
Yeah, people are paying more attention.
Still evolving into that. So I use those illustrations for context.
Ja'Cory Barney, of those wide receivers, has the lowest yards per catch.
Yeah.
Bonner has more. Carter Nelson has more.
That's statistically a thing.
Everybody else is over 10.
Yeah.
He's the lowest. Anybody have a problem with Barney?
We love Tyreek Hill 2.0, but he still has 10 catches for 68 yards. Like, do we even know what we're talking about when we just say things?
No.
It's not a damn thing.
No, it's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people think.
The wide receiver became a thing, which honestly caught me off guard. It really did.
I'm like, what? I don't know.
Like
what if you just went and looked at stats?
I get criticism a lot for being too critical on whatever, right? Because people think I don't really like Nebraska football, or they think, oh, he's a Creighton guy, or so people think I'm overly critical of Nebraska football. And I did not see it coming that people were going to be mad about the wide receiver play or mad at Garrett McGuire. Never saw it coming. Like if I kind of look at things with a critical eye in the first place, which is why people think I'm overly critical. But I think I'm just observant, but whatever. If I didn't see this coming as a possible issue.
That's degenerate Aaron's condescending comment right there.
Yeah, a little bit. I can't help it.
You can't help it.
Like if I didn't see it coming as a possible issue or as something that I thought was a problem, it's really surprising to me.
But I'm just curious. Like, do people know Ja'Cory Barney has 10 catches for 68 yards? What they do know is he has 3 runs for 38.
And they know they like what it looks like when he has the ball in his hands. That's what they know. Let's be real.
Hand sweeps, balls thrown behind the line of scrimmage. Why are we so excited about Ja'Cory Barney when statistically the data doesn't match the effusive praise?
It doesn't match how we feel when he has the ball in his hands. That's what it is.
Must have a lot to do with how they get him the ball.
Yeah.
Do you know what that has to do with?
Play calling. Huh. Weird. So he's playing to people's strengths. That seems like a good coach. That's odd. I was told that Satterfield and McGuire were terrible. That's unusual.
Can't have nice things.
Let's get to Kim.
I thought it looked pretty good.
Let's get to Kim, who's back.
I do feel like he's talking to me sometimes.
Kim, what's going on?
Hi, gentlemen. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great, Kim.
Hi, Kim.
Okay, I've got a miscellaneous point and then a relevant point.
Okay.
So my miscellaneous point is Ravi doesn't have meltdowns. Ravi goes on rants. Damon, you have meltdowns.
Yes. That is 100% accurate. It is, because when they happen, they're awful. It's like it's like Mount Vesuvius. It only erupts every so often.
It's real dormant, but you don't want it to be around when it goes off.
The lava, it does hurt.
I mean, I hate it.
That's true.
So anyway, let's get that out of the way.
Okay. All right, Ravi the ranter, DB the meltdowner.
Yeah, that's right. second point is, and everybody's going to tell me to stay in my lane because I'm not a big Husker person, although I do like them because I really like Matt Rule. I think you can't have nice things until you learn how to win, which is circling back to what you've been saying. And the fans always are waiting, kind of like the Creighton Blue Jays used to do, waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's no way we're going to get – I mean, how many games did they lose by just a couple points? So they just keep waiting. That's why they want to put the foot on the juggler so that there's no possible way in the last 5-10 minutes that we can lose this game.
Yeah.
So they're always looking for something to complain about because they don't believe it can actually happen.
Good call, Kim. We appreciate it.
Huh.
Also, go Jays as always.
I like being 3-0.
Me too.
Yeah, being 3-0 is cool. You know, it's better than being 1-2. That's what they were last year at this time. Being 3-0 is fun.
Here's the mayor. By the way, man, I hope that whole rail car thing is starting to come to fruition. He and I need to talk about that. He said not getting involved in the silly narratives. Is my man, Joel. But Barney's YPCs are skewed a bit by pop passes, which are runs. I know. That's kind of my point.
Yeah.
But I did also say he does have 3 carries for 38 yards.
Yeah.
Right? That's why
But guess what? Even if you give him the 3 carries, put him with the 10 catches, that's 13, 38 yards plus what, 68?
Yeah.
Still under 10. Still under 10.
It's just we see what we see what we want to see.
Yeah. Even if you call them all passes, it's still under 10.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. And guess why he's getting those passes? Because that's what he can handle right now. That's what's in his skill set right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they need him to do right now. Huh. Weird. Putting guys in a position to be successful. Never would have thought of it. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Ryan Burns about Minnesota from 24/7 Sports here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Interesting one coming up.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Ryan Burns. He covers Minnesota for 24/7 Sports. Ryan, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Always good. And it's a big one, in my opinion, this week, just because it's a little bit of a show and tell, right? It's like, how important is it, at least to start with the basics, that Minnesota, and I get the history in the series, but Minnesota gets this game at home to start with?
I'd like to tell you it's important. I'd also tell you that Minnesota hasn't won this game at home since 2014 when Max Williams at the time, who became a second-round draft pick, went nuclear on Kirk Ferentz's Iowa Hawkeyes as the Gophers put up 52 points against an Iowa defense, which if you were to say that at any point in the last decade, something must have went really, really right for you. Now, they started to make this a rivalry again last year when they were able to get the win down in Iowa City. But I tell you, to your point, I think for both fan bases, this is a really interesting early season gut check because both teams are 2-1.
Yeah.
Both teams lost the game they probably shouldn't have lost, with Minnesota and North Carolina, with Iowa and Iowa State. And both fan bases, I think, have aspirations of something a little bit better. But that's where, if you are going to continue down that path, getting this game is going to be very, very important.
Ryan, you mentioned it's kind of a gut check game for both teams. For Minnesota, have you been able to figure out anything you feel like is real versus what might be kind of early season, just variability? Like, is there anything you've been able to put your finger on that you think is going to translate to Big Ten season?
Well, I tell you, Minnesota's offense for the first time under PJ Fleck is now a throw it to run it offense instead of a run it to throw it, which is very weird for me to say, considering we've seen Fleck for a very long time just lean on the run game. But the reality is their offensive line has struggled, and they have struggled to run the football regardless of who the tailback is. And I think they have a lot of confidence in their transfer quarterback, Max Brosmer, and that's where he's been since that fourth quarter of the North Carolina game where he finally started to settle in. He has been much more consistent through the air. But that's where, heading into Big Ten play, you look at the first 3 games for Minnesota, you have an Iowa defense who I understand they've given up some explosive plays here the last few weeks, but they're still a Phil Parker defense. Then you have to travel to the Big House, and while Michigan may have their issues offensively, I think their defense is still pretty special. And then, oh, by the way,
first weekend of October, you get to host USC, who defensively looks much improved, both in scheme, both in tackling, and they've obviously bought well out of the portal with the creatures they got running around defensively. So if you can't run the football, you're going to have a passing game, and I think that's what we've learned is Minnesota actually finally worked on a passing game during the non-conference, and hopefully that translates here over the next few weeks.
So, Ryan, it's interesting because I think sometimes, and Ravi used Coach Fleck as an example earlier in our first segment about consistency of message. Whether you like a guy or not, the consistency, there's power in it. Is Fleck past the litmus test where his culture or the consistency of his message is so prevalent that it can withstand the coaching changes that he's had during his tenure? Or is this year kind of what you would use in essence as a benchmark to either confirm or deny the consistency of culture?
It's a great question, and I would tell you the reality is, unfortunately for the answer, I think the answer is both. I think we're going to find out with Joe Rossi leaving for Michigan State, where this is now, I think, the third different time a coordinator has left for a different Big Ten job where they get paid over $250,000 more, which I think tells you my thoughts and feelings about the Gophers' salary pool and how low it is in the Big Ten and how it's pretty ridiculous. But I think we're going to find out if that's going to be the case, because you're on Greg Harbaugh's second year as the offensive coordinator. You're on Corey Heatherman's first year as the defensive coordinator. And I'd say when you are now 17 days into the month of September and you've yet to give up a point, yes, I understand it's Rhode Island or Nevada, but it's really hard to shut out whoever you're playing in back-to-back games, which that's the first time the Gophers have had back-to-back shutouts since 1962. Now, I don't know what you were doing 62 years ago, but I was a generation away from being here.
You and me both. Almost a full decade, or a little over a full decade. But let me ask you something, though, Ryan. So, and I get it. I got a chance to know Danny real well when he was recruiting up here in Omaha. He's the longest tenured. Is he the only coach that's been with PJ since he's got here of the positional guys?
They got a lot of guys on the offensive side of the ball. Like the offensive line coach, Brian Callahan, has been with him since Western Michigan. Their receivers coach, Matt Simon, has been there since Western Michigan. To your point, Danny Collins, their safeties coach, who there were a lot of people doubting the safeties, myself included. They're playing about 5 safeties defensively right now, and it's actually working for them, which I can't imagine what those meetings are like when you're rotating 5 guys and they're getting 20 snaps a game with all the different personnel packages they're trying to deploy. But there is continuity, but I'd say wherever you look across the Big Ten every single year, I'd tell you on average, I think the stats come out to you are losing about 3 coaches a year.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
So it's not just a Minnesota specific issue. Now I tell you the Minnesota specific issue is their sad excuse for an assistant salary pool, which that's a whole, I don't think we have enough segments on this station for me to be able to fill your listeners' ears with, but there's some things that they obviously have to clean up, but I don't think it's anything that out of the ordinary in the Big Ten.
Ryan, I'm kind of curious about the tenor around PJ Fleck, because you mentioned that assistant pool, and it seemed like he was maybe trying to get out of town a little bit, whether it be, I think he was trying to get that UCLA job, or maybe try and find some greener pastures where there was, not that UCLA has more money, but maybe where there was a little bit more money to go around. Has that kind of affected the way he's been perceived at Minnesota at all?
I think in the offseason there was a little talk about it. Now, obviously, I would tell you that there was steam between UCLA and PJ. Now, I think it might have been a different conversation if UCLA hadn't run a deficit with their athletic department for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, he could have got that at Minnesota, right? And stayed put.
Right.
Yeah, if their chancellor wasn't on thin ice, if their athletic director, like there was a lot of different things in that whole thing that went down. But I would tell you, even if PJ could lose every single game the rest of the year and he's not going to get fired, I'm going to tell you why. It is a $22 million buyout if Minnesota tries to fire him. Now, I would tell you, I'm not sure if you know this, but there's only been 3 head coaches that have ever been fired with a buyout over $18 million. And next year,
PJ Fleck's buyout at the University of Minnesota is $18 million. So
That's pretty impressive.
they are very committed to one another, because with the $22 million that Minnesota's athletic department has to find to pay their athletes here, they don't have an additional $22 million to be able to buy him out if something were to go pear-shaped this season. So there's a lot. I think both sides understand that they need to be committed to one another now, especially after the UCLA thing. He got his deal reworked, but I think they're incentivized that with Big Ten play now starting, they need to get this thing righted.
All right, so let me get to the a little bit of the actual matchup without really the bell cow running back. I do want to know whose stats are closest to being more accurate, because I like Taylor, especially with his ability to get vertical. So, Darius Taylor, I think, is over 7 per. I don't think that's really sustainable, but he is explosive. And Brosmer is about 60. He's, high 60 completion percentage. When you look at those two things in terms of Taylor's explosiveness and Brosmer's accuracy, which one is more portable in the long haul?
I think Brosmer's accuracy. We just have more data about Max Brosmer now. It was at the FCS level the last couple of years when he was at New Hampshire, but I think we've learned that the window between the FCS and the FBS, and certainly the Big Ten, is a lot smaller than it used to be. And that's where even just last season for Brosmer, he was up for the FCS Heisman, didn't end up winning it. But when you're in the finalist group, I think that shows that you're doing something well if you're getting recognized at what is not traditionally a powerhouse at the New Hampshire Wildcats. But what made him so good was his accuracy, and that's where, to your point, his completion percentage right around 69%. There's been about 8-9 drops in there that it could be north of 70%, and so that's where you look at the game this weekend. I'm sure you guys know, like I do, you don't beat Iowa running the football.
No.
They just will not get beat on the ground.
Doesn't seem
and
like
that's where I always think back to like the Jeff Brom Purdue teams. They were the ones that consistently gave Phil Parker's defenses fits, and they were the ones that consistently had a chance to beat Iowa compared to all the other West teams. And so that's where this week Phil Parker is going to say, well, we'll see if he can run the football a little bit. But if Brosmer can be as accurate as he's been, if all you got to do is be accurate and not throw the ball to Sebastian Castro or Jamari Harris, now it's a lot easier said than done. But if you can just be accurate, which Brosmer has been so far, you're going to have a chance.
Who's the guy going to be? Is it Jackson?
If I'm Phil Parker, I'm going to try to take away Daniel Jackson. So I'm going to say it's going to be Darius Taylor through the passing game, which he's had 4 and 5 receptions the last
out of the backfield.
He's second in the Big Ten in running back receptions, and he's only played in 2 games. But I'd also say keep an eye on Jamison Gears, their tight end. We'll see if Minnesota can give Iowa a dose of their own medicine with a tight end.
That's Ryan Burns covering Minnesota for 24/7 Sports. Ryan, we appreciate it, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Ryan.
Appreciate you.
Coming up next, we got Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7 here, Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage as we effort Mike Schaefer. Big Brothers and Big Sisters is efforting to recruit 60 men in 60 days by October 30th. They're calling on all men in the Omaha metro area to step up and become big brothers to many youth waiting for a mentor. Some of these kids have been waiting for over a year to find a big brother, and more than half of those kids on the waiting list are boys. It's easy to sign up. Go to mentoromaha.org today to be a big brother or big sister. You can do both. Either way, that's where you go, mentoromaha.org. What's up?
Nothing.
You're kind of like a mentor. You're a coach.
Yeah.
Coaching's like mentoring.
Got lots of kids that run in and out of the house.
That's the part of coaching I didn't like very much.
Yeah. If anything comes up missing, I'll have no idea who did it.
Although one of my best friends is one of my former
apparently have a
players.
night eater.
A night eater?
Oh,
what does that mean?
Stuff just disappears by in the morning when you feel like it was in pretty good shape when you went to bed.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Mike is sleepwalks or because I go to bed pretty late. So his window to
get some food.
Yeah. All my good bars are gone.
Like protein bars?
Yes.
Yeah.
He has his.
Get your own bars, Micah.
He's like team protein too, so stuff disappears.
I know. You showed me a picture of him playing ball. He looks a little different.
Yeah.
Like-
Yeah, he's serious.
He is. I like it. Get after it.
He's serious.
Is it pretty quiet around there?
You could hear a cricket now. You couldn't. I mean, before it was deafening where you had to get a timeout.
I don't like it when he sets up his own jokes.
Oh, Mr. Particular.
Can I just say that?
That's fine. Yeah, says the guy who I asked you who the voice was
I
first.
never set up my own joke.
But did
How
you
are the older guys going to take
did
it?
you hear numbnuts earlier? I was like,
What'd I say?
So we had to find a remote control.
Yeah.
And so Shane said, Siri, turn on flashlight. And Siri said, flashlight on. And I go, oh, I said, that's pretty sweet. I said, we're in the dark. I had been scrolling through my phone to click on the flashlight.
Yeah.
So Shane, I come in here and I say, hey, Ravi.
Yeah.
Who's the girl? I didn't say girl. It was not appropriate. I said, I think I said chick, which, I mean, you can be mad at me.
I don't remember what you said, but yeah.
Who did I talk to when I want my Android to do something?
Yeah.
And you go, oh.
I think it's just Hey Google.
I think it's Hey Google, but you have to set that up. And to be honest, I can't see you as a person that would have set that up. And I was like,
I said, don't take this the wrong way.
Yeah, with the preface of I'm going to take it the wrong way. Do you want to set it up for me?
I can try. I'm not familiar with Androids.
He like can manipulate his phone without pushing anything. He just talks to her.
Yeah. Siri.
I want to do that.
You should get an iPhone.
No. No. Do we have Michael Schaefer?
Not yet, but I think I have some audio of you setting up your phone.
Yeah, what's
Let's
that? Go, baby. Really?
That time I'm okay with him setting up his own joke. That was funny.
Super happy.
Was that funny?
I thought it was funny.
Is it Google though?
I don't know. I know Google makes phones and you can go, hey, Google.
So Shane, do you click the microphone function or do you just say, hey, whatever your name, hey Siri?
I just ask Siri to do whatever.
Yeah, on the iPhone, you don't have to hit a button. You just say, hey, Siri. That's what mine. I got to be
Hey
careful.
Google, turn on flashlight.
I don't think you got your setup, if I had to guess.
Kind of like what is it, Alexa for
Yeah, like Amazon Prime or whatever.
Prime? Yeah.
Prime.
I didn't realize you could change Alexa. And T-Mo's car, it's not. He changes like her language and her name.
Yeah, you can change the accent and stuff.
Yeah.
Some people like to talk to a British person or like an Australian.
So TK says it is Hey Google, but where do I go to set that up?
I'm gonna guess Google.
God, zip it, Marty. So anyway. Amazing Daniel. The problem with Siri is you can't change her name. So if I call for my wife across the house, the phone responds more than she does. It is close, Siri. Well, enunciate better, Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel, quit mumbling. Also, that seems like a you and your wife problem, not a Siri problem.
Yeah.
Hey, you want me to try it out?
Yeah.
Hey, Siri, call Mike Schaefer. He's on line 1 for you.
Oh, geez.
Now it's
she said call Mike Schaefer. Hi, Mike J. How we doing?
Shay from Husker
I
24/7. What's up, buddy?
I'm just excited to be out of the car after driving to Columbus this morning.
Oh, how was old Huddy?
He hit the hour mark and he wanted to be out of the car too, and he, we got stuck behind roughly 17,000 semis and 1-lane highway or 2-lane highway situations. And the city of Seward is ravaged. And
so I noticed that going to Columbus. That was a very slow drive. And I remember asking our offensive line coach, because he rode with me and our coach Cal, and I said, where are all these semis going? Is this like a semi thing? And your city, like the town of Columbus, is going through a lot of construction too.
Yeah. Everything is under construction, and then everyone wants to go north and south on 81. So it's just a lot of semis, a lot of wide loads, a lot of long-bodied semis. I don't know what they're called. I'm not a truck driving expert, but I know that's hard to believe.
So why? So why were you? May I ask why? Did you stay in Columbus last night? It seems like an awful quick trip to be back by 9.
I'm here this morning. It's my mom's birthday, and I figured, as the thoughtful, great son that I am, what better gift could I give her than to hand her my screaming child while I do a radio interview with you guys.
I mean, that sounds like a win for everybody.
I mean,
involved.
listen, Shane, that is fantastic. I like how you're opportunist. We call that being an opportunist, Shane. There's nothing wrong with that.
You see something out there and you just think, well, how can I make this work for myself? That's what I did.
Okay, so are we happier about the Sam Darnold experience, or that Nebraska is finally in Big Ten play, where your message board people can get their fears confirmed or denied?
Well, I didn't think Nebraska was going to struggle much with its non-conference, so I think I'd probably be a little bit more surprised, happier by the fact that Sam Darnold is actually capable. And the Vikings have a good roster. They just needed someone who could drive the car, and he's doing a pretty good job. Though that interception to Fred Warner was, I don't know where that ball was going, and I don't know how many Niners were going to have the opportunity to pick it off if Fred Warner could. But otherwise, Sam Darnold's he's been good. Ravi probably feels like that's a bad loss. He shouldn't though. That Vikings defense is legit. Brian Flores is legit. They're going to bully a bunch of teams this year. I think the NFC North is wide open. The NFC's bad, so that helps. But I think that's,
listen to
that's
this.
more surprising.
Mike Schaefer sounding like Damon Benning on the Minnesota Vikings this offseason. Ravi one time looked at me, Schaefer, and he goes, "Oh, you have a weird affinity for the Minnesota Vikings.
You do.
Like, do you like the Vikings?"
You do.
And I said, "No,
you do.
I don't. I just think they're going to be good because I like Brian Flores, and I'm curious to see Darnold with a competent offensive mind."
Is this a Harrison Phillips thing?
By the way, congrats on the new 2-year deal.
Get that money.
Yeah.
No, actually, Schaefer, I don't think it's a bad loss. I do think Minnesota's not bad. I also think Sam Darnold is more capable than most people do.
I do have what did you ask me about the man crushes? Like, I have a blind spot for Fred Warner. So, like when you said Fred Warner, I kind of gushed a little bit, Schaefer, and I felt a little conflicted because I don't know that
you need to have a blind spot about the.
Well, I don't like the 49ers. It's not my team. Like, I don't care one iota about the Niners, but I do really, really, really like Warner.
I think San Francisco can literally lose.
Who's that?
Bo Pelini. Nebraska wanted him bad.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
And I think I might still be Facebook friends with Fred Warner. That was the way that I was able to get in touch with him at that time.
What high schooler is Facebooking like that? Back then,
it was
a weird time.
Back then,
it was a weird time.
Nobody is now. It's completely different now. But yeah, at that time, I couldn't get him on the phone, so I took a shot on Facebook. And that's how Fred Warner and I became Facebook friends.
You want to hear like a really weird Facebook college football story, Schaefer? Probably not, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So back in the day when Facebook first came out, so like 2005, 2006, when I first got on there when I was in college, there were major college football stars on Facebook because they didn't it was a new thing for everybody and they didn't really realize it's like, hey, I'm famous. I probably shouldn't be on here. So I went and friended a bunch of random quarterbacks.
Wow, shocker.
Because I was I liked them as recruits coming out of high school. And so I was friends with Mitch Mustaine and people like that on Facebook.
Wow.
I love it.
I wouldn't even tell anybody that. By the way, Schaefer, do you know why he chose BYU?
I really don't.
They were the first offer, weren't they?
They came in really hard at him. I don't even know. I don't think he's Mormon either. He was from
San Marcos.
I think
he wanted to go USC. They came in late, I thought.
Right. I know Nebraska really, really thought highly of him, and they were early, but BYU was, I think, first. And I don't know if it was a Bronco Mendenhall thing, because I think he would have been coaching there at that point. So, but yeah, I don't think he ever took an official visit to Nebraska. I know that they talked with him a lot, but I don't know that they were ever able to get him on campus.
Let me ask you something before we get to post UNI, Illinois, Nebraska talk. Is the Big Ten game you're most excited about Minnesota, Iowa, or USC and Michigan? Which one will tell you more, in your opinion? Just based on Mike J. Schaefer's thoughts.
I think I'm more interested in USC, Michigan, largely because I sort of expect Michigan to get slapped. And I think that's a little surprising because all the conversation was how USC was going to need to adjust to the Big Ten. And maybe that'll be the case, but what I've seen from Michigan and what I've seen from USC, I think USC is going to hold up just fine against one of the worst offenses in the conference this year.
The line stinks, though. I don't know how Michigan is going to score 5.5, let alone have that be the line. I wouldn't touch that thing with Ravi's $20 he owes me. If I was gun to head, man, I'd take Michigan.
I can't go that far.
I know, right? It makes no sense. I still don't. But I did look at. So I went back, Schaefer. I don't even know how we got on this, except you said SC Michigan. Miller Moss. I almost said Riley Moss. Miller Moss is. Do you know he only has 2 touchdown passes?
I think one each game, right?
Yeah, he hasn't been great. But he has been good enough to do what they need to do. They found a way to run the ball. They've turned teams over a little bit, but they haven't been like, I think at first blush, he hasn't been like I think you'd think 2-0, ran roughshod over LSU and Utah State. Moss has been. Like if you get inside the numbers.
Yeah, well, that Utah State game, I mean, they were in control of that. That's sort of like Nebraska, UTEP, and Nebraska, Northern Iowa, where they were just sort of in control in a very fast way in that game, and they didn't just like load up passing wise. I thought the LSU USC game was fascinating because I wasn't expecting USC to be more physical at times than LSU, and they were. And then you watch LSU South Carolina turn into a little bit of a track meet. And it's like, is USC's defense good? Is that a week 1 thing? So, I mean, we're going to learn quite a bit about this USC team against Michigan. But I just think Michigan's offense is so bad that I don't see how they can, if USC just gets to 20, 21 points, I don't think Michigan can get to that.
Maybe committing to Orgy full time now will give them some continuity, but I mean, against Utah State, people forget, man, SC ran the ball like 38 times.
It's like they've changed their identity a little bit overnight.
I do. I like Woody Marks. Like, he's pretty good.
I mean, we'll find out. The problem here is the other option you gave me was Iowa, Minnesota, and I kind of swore off Minnesota. Like, I don't need to watch them the rest of the year. I watched them against North Carolina. They look exactly like they did in previous years. They're not interesting. They don't have any compelling player on offense that you're like, oh, I want to watch this guy. So, and then you combine that with Iowa, which every game of theirs is roughly the same. I just, outside of like the Schadenfreude, I don't know what the reason to watch Iowa, Minnesota this weekend.
Schaefer, would there be anything more surprising in Big Ten play this year than if USC really is this physical defensive football team?
I think the only thing that could be more surprising is if Indiana is really this good. That's probably the only other storyline that would be on the table. Otherwise, I mean, I think the conference has kind of played out how I anticipated. Oregon's looked a little worse than maybe I expected, but we'll see.
I don't know if Minnesota or if Michigan State goes to Boston College and wins, that will get my attention. Jonathan Smith is a good coach, and I think I joked with Ravi before the season started. I think we forgot that Jonathan Smith was hired at East Lansing. I was joking with him at Big Ten Media Days. I was like, "Oh, look, there's the guy that nobody knows whose team he's coaching, and he's a really good coach."
Well, they're one of the few teams I have not watched a single second of Michigan State this year, so I can't even really comment on how they've looked or how they played because it's just the way that it's lined up. I haven't watched any Michigan State, so I don't know what they exactly look like. I know that everybody likes their quarterback, but I thought he started kind of slow. just the way that, he's been talked about.
I want to say Childs every time I see his name.
That's the same thing.
Every time I just want to be like, Childs.
I would not pronounce that correctly.
The only reason I know is because Ben McLaughlin, somehow we got on the Michigan State a couple weeks ago, and he said it correctly. So I'm like, I'm going with Benny Mac because I can barely get through a broadcast unless he's pointing or telling me what to do.
Those broadcast guys, they're good at the pronunciation.
It's a high level of trust, right?
Yeah.
Cootie and B-Mac make me look like I know what I'm talking about.
Schaefer, is there what's your level of, I guess, concern for the Illinois game opener against Nebraska? Like where, or maybe concern's not even the right word. How are you processing this game in the lead up?
I think this game is going to be a good test for Nebraska to kind of kick off Big Ten play. I don't see anything that's particularly threatening about Illinois, but it feels like they're competent enough in everything they do. They have good special teams. I mean, they have two kickers that are probably, and I don't say this to offend Tristan Alvano, but they have two kickers right now that I think Nebraska's fan base would take if they were offered that choice, either one of those guys. I mean, their backup kicker made a 59-yard field goal last week. That's sort of where they're at. Their special teams are fantastic. I wonder how well they can move the ball if they can't run it, because they've had struggles running the ball all year. I think Nebraska's a tough team to play if they can make you really one-dimensional. I want to see if Tommy Hill just follows Patrick Bryant everywhere. I mean, that would be a really fun.
They got a good tandem outside the numbers, don't they?
Yeah. So I mean, that's their guy. And at one point, he had caught every pass thrown to him this season, and so that ended during the Central Michigan game. But Patrick Bryant's been really good. So it made me wonder whether would Tony White have Tommy Hill just trail him? I don't know that Nebraska's defense is set up that way necessarily. But that matchup is going to be interesting, because if you can take Patrick Bryant out of the game, like if Tommy Hill is that good, or if Nebraska's secondary is that good, and you can make Patrick Bryant a non-factor, I just don't know that there's enough weapons for Illinois for them to put up enough points. Now, Nebraska hasn't faced probably a team that has this level of defense either. So what is Nebraska's offense going to do? I just think there's a lot of fun kind of chess matches inside this game. And we'll see if Nebraska is truly bully ball, if they're able to just build a lead and then sit on top of Illinois throughout the game, because Illinois is going to get one-dimensional and you're not going to have to worry about the run game. I think that plays into Nebraska's favor. I think they have a very clear path as to how Nebraska would want to play this game. You get an early lead, and then you just sit on top of them, and you power away at the Illinois defensive line, which is not nearly as good as it's been in the past.
Although I do think
have a good day running.
I do think Dennis Briggs Jr. is a pretty good player. He'll be wearing number 6 for those of you that are interested. Schaefer, let me ask you something here, because you said, well, I mean, not to take a shot at Tristan Alvano. When Nebraska was driving at the end of the half, and it was like the 4th and 3, and then they took the timeout, where did you think Nebraska needed to be in order to attempt the field goal? Or do you think that was, especially based on Coach Rule's presser, where he said, you know what, it's 4th and 3, and we got to be in those situations? And I said, yeah, Dylan, make a play, where that was going to be on the frontal lobe the whole time? Do you think that was?
I don't know that they were ever going to kick a field goal in that situation unless there was 2 seconds left and, you're just trying to grab the points there. It felt like, and this is just me, I don't know that Rule said it like this. This is just me adding my own sort of thoughts onto what happened. It felt like in the aftermath of it, a lot of it was, hey, we might be in this situation, so let's put Dylan in it and let's see how this goes. And so it felt like a learning rep, I guess, if you will. And it didn't obviously work for Nebraska, but it didn't feel to me that there was a whole lot of consideration of kicking a field goal there. Now, whether that's a confidence thing or whether that's, you've got this quarterback who hasn't been in a lot of situations. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Every week is a new week for everybody, but for Dylan Raiola, there's a lot that he's never done in college football. So picking up this 4th down to sustain the drive to try to go get points I mean, you're going to need that at some point during the year. So keeping him out there and letting him do it, against Northern Iowa in a game in which you're in control sort of makes sense to me. And so, like I said, I might just be adding my own thoughts onto that, but I don't know that there was a lot of consideration to kick a field goal there.
Schaefer, how much of the first 3 games do you think Rule has been doing stuff like that? Like, let's assume you're right in that situation.
A lot.
Right? Yeah, like that's kind of my conclusion
He's
too.
playing the long game for sure.
I don't think he's like, I've said this on other shows. I've said it on our podcast. I've gotten the feeling since halfway through the second half of the Colorado game, they do not care about style points. It is not of interest to Matt Rule, and it's a very NFL mentality. It's build a lead, figure out how to maintain that lead, make sure guys leave the game, not injured. Don't put anybody in any bad situations. Play some guys, try to maximize your roster, pick your spots. And that's what they've done. People might just have to accept that Nebraska's not interested in winning a game 56-0 if it can, or 56-3, which it might have been able to do against Northern Iowa, as much as they're interested in, let's get some guys some reps. Let's see what we have throughout this roster. We might need this player in a situation later. This is a great opportunity for Carter Nelson to work on some of the stuff that he can do. I mean, I thought it was notable on that first drive. It was a lot of Carter Nelson, and then he was just kind of out of the game for a while. And then he came back in. I mean, they're kind of piecemealing this to see what they have. I like it. Like, I think this is how you build your roster out. I think it's how you keep some guys happy. And I think it's how you can kind of build your program. Like, they're not in it to go win this massive score and make people, freak out about, oh, wow, they put up 70 points. I don't think Matt Rule cares about that. It's a very NFL mentality to me.
That's Mike J. Schaefer, Husker 24/7. Schaefer, enjoy your time in Columbus. Tell your mom happy birthday.
I will do that. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for working with me today.
You got it, Schaefer.
We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back.
I'm very stressed.
Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. You all right, DB? You going to make it?
Well, I'm trying to read TK's screenshot, and it's not working. And then your delivery to me is infuriating.
I apologize. I wasn't even trying to be snarky.
Yes,
I really wasn't.
yes,
No, I
you
wasn't.
were.
I was trying to be nice.
That's where
Sorry about that.
I'm team.
I was trying to be nice.
Degenerate Aaron on this one. So I need to download Google Assistant?
Yeah,
He said go to settings.
I don't know that it comes automatically on your phone.
Tap, hey, Google and voice match under popular settings. Man, I don't
Maybe it does. I'm not sure.
I feel like it's a give Ravi my phone and set it up thing. That's what typically happens.
It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Warhorse, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets, whether it's at the sportsbook in Lincoln or Omaha. Make sure you get to Warhorse Sportsbook. You can place your bets on nearly every major sporting event. Do straight bets, parlays, props, in-game, which is my personal fave.
Degenerate.
Maybe a little bit. That's okay.
What's so appealing about in-game?
I'll tell you in just a second here. Make sure you get to warhorsecasino.com for all details. And they've always got cool events coming up at the sports books as well. You know why I like in-game bets?
Why? Why did you point? What?
You know why I like in-game bet? I feel like you can get a better value a lot of times if you have conviction on what the outcome's going to be.
Oh, not that I'm not paying attention because I like the outcome. No, because you sound like Brian Edwards. And he has like a general rule of thumb.
Yeah.
I didn't see the part at the end where TK said, first step is to search Google Assistant in your apps, then follow those steps.
Yeah, so if it's not in your apps, you may have to download it. I'm trying real hard not to be condescending. It's really hard for me, though.
I don't really love it.
You know what I like to bet on?
That I'm going to be in survival. Whether or not I'm going to survive each day.
Yes, yes. Well, I'd actually like that because I can control that outcome. So, like, if I wanted to just win, I would just be nice to you every day, even though you're kind of a prick. Like, I would, right? I'd just be like, oh, it's okay. That's just Ravi.
What's funny, because off air, I'm very nice to you.
That's a lie.
I'm so nice to you off air.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm always there for you, getting your phone when you forget it.
It's not true.
Letting your dogs out, hanging out with Biggie and Buddha.
If If you have troubles losing.
Dude, read Stank Nooner. And why? I don't even like saying that out loud, but dude's kind of funny.
It feels like you're swearing. Stank Nooner.
Well, that's his name.
I know.
He's like, to be fair, DB, it was satire. Typically, I'm an intelligent adult who has an iPhone and talks to Siri like everyone else.
Yes, that's a big bucket there, boy.
You guys are such snobs.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah, he's
he's
actually drilling me, which is fine.
I didn't say anything.
The nice thing is when you're talking to Siri and you don't know where your phone's at, I don't have to call Ravi. I can just say, "Hey Siri, where are you?" And normally she'll say,
I knew where my phone was.
I
called Ravi to go get it.
Yeah.
How did you call Ravi on your phone?
Off his wife's phone.
Yeah. I was like, hey, in my bedroom on the table, there's a phone.
Yeah. That you can't say, "Hey Siri," if your phone is in a different location than you, Shane.
So
that doesn't help.
You called Ravi from your wife's phone to go to your house to get your phone out of your bedroom.
Yes.
That just sounds weird.
Wasn't weird. He's like, "Hey, here's the garage code. It's right on the nightstand. Grab it." And I was like, "Dope." And Jenny was like, "I'm so sorry. We didn't make the bed or anything." And I was like, "I don't care."
I don't know. Did we not? Did we not?
I don't know. I didn't notice. But she was like, "I don't even think we made the bed. It's so messy in there." And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Not in there enough to pay attention, to be honest.
I was literally like, "Phone, got it. See ya."
The dogs were good.
Yeah.
So
Biggie and Buddha like me.
That's unfortunate.
Dogs like me more.
That's because they don't know how you treat me.
Dogs like me more than people do most of the time.
There, see the difference between
dogs
animals
have good sense.
and people is being
Dogs have
the
good
level of how irrational.
I am way nicer to dogs. Too.
Animals don't know any better.
I am way nicer to dogs too. In general, I turn into a totally different person around dogs.
You actually act like a decent person.
No, I'm so nice to. I'm like how other people act around children.
Simba, I'm very disappointed in you.
I like cats too. That's a fair point, James Earl Jones. Appreciate that.
Oh shoot! I'm gonna bet on the fact during this segment that I'm gonna laugh at you at least one more time. I think Mark might be mad at me.
Yeah. Why is Mark mad at you?
Well, I think Mark is arriving at the fact that he said Damon has said don't talk about football with him if you don't know all the details about coaching and schemes, but in the same breath doesn't like how we are fans. Maybe his podcast should be for coaches only. That's not. You've never heard me say that.
No.
Never.
No.
And if that was the case, I wouldn't talk to Jimmy or Denny. It's Dennis, right?
Denny.
What do we? Denny Downer.
Denny.
Yes, Denny Downer.
Because the Dennises have objected to being.
I'll talk to anybody and everybody, and I always tell you. You go, why do you talk to him? I said because he's young and he's just trying to learn. What I said was because I imagine he's referring to Coach Satterfield in play calling last week or the week before last. And I'm like,
2 weeks ago,
if you aren't comfortable or don't know concepts or whatever it is, play design, then we can't have a conversation about
play
calling.
Yes, that's was a very specific.
It's very specific. I say you can't come across as a know-it-all.
Yeah.
And then if
you don't actually have the details,
and then if we talk about it, then you're mad about the facts.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
It was a very specific instance.
Yeah.
DB, I'll vouch for him on this. DB will talk to anybody, especially about football, because he likes teaching people about football.
anything.
Yes.
Right. And I don't know. Sometimes I'm gonna learn.
But
too,
especially it's for me, at least in my interactions with you.
I apologize if I gave off that vibe, Mark.
In my interactions with you, especially early before we really knew each other,
it's better to call somebody by their real name like Mark than Stank Nooner. What are we doing?
I'm sorry if I came off that way, Stank Nooner.
There's no failure in sports.
I will, and I've seen you interact with people that I'm like, why are you even talking to them?
He said, don't ask Apple people for Google advice.
It's true.
Geez, Stank.
Although
He's acting kind of stanky.
Somehow still know more about your Android device than you do.
It's fine. I just try to get by the basics.
I do. I can vouch for the fact that if somebody wants to learn football, like you're more than willing to talk to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a self-awareness issue of people that already think they know it all versus people that want to learn. Right? That's how I
Well,
view
you
it, at
can't
least.
tell me a guy's not good at what he does if you don't really know what he does.
Yes, I think that's accurate.
That's
and
all.
I think that's exactly what Coach Rule told us when he's like, hey, he was performing surgery on a bullet train.
Well, and the other thing is,
and we're just like, we think he's in an operating room. And we think,
Coach Rule
you know,
kind of doubled down when he was like, maybe I can't be as straightforward with you guys.
yeah, maybe I can't be as candid as maybe I'm being too candid.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
Which I think I hope he doesn't.
Shane, I didn't need you to put Stank Nooners. I didn't need you to like put that on the video screen.
I just need you to say Stank Nooner a couple more times.
Oh, I'm sorry. I put the wrong one up there. Is it this one?
Wow. Oh, he said an explanation is Can I read this? This is total Ron Burgundy moment.
Yeah.
An explanation is needed. ... I ride a motorcycle. People refer to the wheelies as dank. Dank is in like bud?
Yeah.
Nooners. Mine are not dank. They stank. I think I'm gonna like this guy. Even though, see, it's weird. I'm a glutton for punishment. I gravitate towards people that tend to make fun of me.
And that's why we're here.
Maybe I'm just an easy of a target. I end up liking a guy who's like basically crushing me.
It's because his name is Stank Nooner.
And he has the stones enough to ride a motorcycle. I'm scared of those.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't be caught dead on one of those things.
If you were dead, you would be right. Pretty sure.
Well,
I mean, Ghost Rider
Rider
was a movie.
Yeah.
That was a movie.
That's like my one. Yeah, I'm very I'm pretty
Opinionated about your Marvel movies.
No, I wasn't even talking about the movies anymore. That's
exactly right.
That's like the one thing.
Thank you, Sat.
He doesn't know. Just ask anybody. That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Gonna bet on the fact that
you're gonna be condescending.
Yeah, that's a fair bet. There's a lot of minus money on that one. Make sure you get to Eventbrite.com, search Hurrdat Sports Radio to get to our breakfast on Friday.
Let's eat.
Another live show, another great breakfast, and another show brought to you by EP Foundation Repair. Make sure you get your spot reserved so you can see me and DB act like idiots live and in person instead of just on camera. We'll be back more to talk Michigan football. Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We're joined now by Alejandro Zuñiga. He is covering Michigan football for 24/7 Sports. Alejandro, how are you this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, appreciate it. Just this is interesting. So we've been talking about these matchups all week in the Big Ten, and we always do kind of like this Bet on Me segment. And I look at 5.5, and I looked at Ravi on Monday, and I go, sometimes I wonder how Michigan's going to score 5.5. Like, it doesn't seem right. But then I go back and I look at how SC is run the football better than people think. I think Michigan is good against the run. You're coming off a loss. It's at home. Like, do you think Michigan fans should actually like this matchup?
I mean, before the season, I would have absolutely said yes. I mean, USC's only played a couple games, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Is I think people very strongly overreact to the first couple weeks of the college football season. That being said, Michigan has some legitimate questions, especially on the offensive side of the ball. USC, obviously, from its perspective offensively, is very, very talented. And I mean, listen, Michigan is a quarter of the way through the season, changing quarterback, still has an ongoing competition at center, still hasn't really established its identity with any receivers. So I think you'd be right to say, how do you expect a Michigan to keep up with an offensive juggernaut like USC, regardless of how good Michigan's defense can be?
Alejandro, you mentioned that ongoing kind of quarterback competition. What led to the move of going with Alex Orji as the starter this week, as opposed to kind of what they've been doing in sort of the reverse platoon situation there?
Yeah, so Michigan had started Davis Warren through the first 3 games of the season. And to answer your question as simply as possible, it was turnovers. Davis Warren threw 6 interceptions through the first 3 games of the season. 3 of those came against Arkansas State last week in about 3 quarters of play before coaches decided to make the change in game. And quarterback type thing, the most important part of that job description is to take care of the football. And while all those interceptions certainly weren't attributed directly to Davis Warren, there were miscommunications with receivers. There was one where his arm got hit. The reality is 2 touchdowns to 6 interceptions isn't going to cut it for any team, any program at any level. So at that point, coaches decided, hey, we're going to make the switch to Alex Orji. They announced yesterday that he's going to be the starter this weekend against the Trojans. Obviously, with Alex Orji, you've got a guy who's a very dynamic runner, who is going to be a run-first type of thing. And we haven't seen what he can do as a passing quarterback. He was a sub 50% passer in high school. He's only thrown a couple of passes at the collegiate level. So it'll be, it's a very much a wait and see as to what that's going to look like for an extended run that he hasn't really had before against a ranked opponent to open up Big Ten play.
Alejandro, it's interesting. I always tell people never apologize for your opponent. So I don't want to discount Arkansas State when I say it looks like, whether it's Mullings or Edwards or the offensive line, they're starting to kind of get in sync with how they want to run the football. Is that fair in this kind of offense where you can critique it regardless of opponent, that it's moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Listen, I think Michigan fans, maybe media, maybe the program itself was a little bit overconfident coming into the season in thinking that they'd be able to replace the amount of talent that they lost last year. And for a program like Michigan that has built itself as being a running first program, they lost their entire starting offensive line to the NFL draft. Not only their top 5, but their top 6 all went to the NFL after last season. So there have been some very legitimate growing pains. Again, you mentioned don't apologize for your opponent. Arkansas State this year and traditionally not a very good run defense. So you'd expect Michigan to do what it did. But again, props to Michigan for doing it. They ran for more than 300 yards against Arkansas State last weekend. They're a better run blocking line right now than pass blocking line. So that's, part of maybe what makes Alex Orji a better fit for this offense. But that being said, there are very real concerns at right tackle where they're starting a redshirt freshman. And as I mentioned, their center position is still a platoon, which at this point in the year is a little bit bizarre, maybe, that they haven't settled on one guy. And it sounds like they're going to continue to platoon between 2 guys at center this weekend against the Trojans.
Alejandro, you mentioned the lack of passing history for Alex Orji. Have you kind of started to think about how much he's going to have to throw the ball to at least keep teams honest and give that run game a chance?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no question about that, right? I mean, Michigan has used Alex Orji the last couple of years as a wildcat quarterback. They've brought him in as a short yardage guy. They actually tried to get him a pass in the Rose Bowl against Alabama last year that was well covered downfield. But, Michigan hasn't used him really in that regard. He has a couple of touchdowns this year, but he's 2 for 3, I think, or 2 for 4 passing, something along those lines. But really just very, very simple stuff. They haven't asked him to do anything beyond just kind of throws into the flat. He took 1 deep shot that he overthrew against Arkansas State. And then he kind of turfed one in the opener against Fresno State that made everyone realize, oh, maybe that's why he didn't win the starting job. But it's true. I mean, you saw even against Arkansas State, or when Alex Orji's in the game, your safeties, your linebackers are going to be firing to the line of scrimmage at the snap because everyone's thinking run first. And traditionally, that's been what Alex Orji has done. Coaches and the team have said, hey, he's improved a lot as a passer over the last year or so. He was a legitimate contender to win the starting job, which suggests that he has improved as a passer. We just haven't seen it yet. And Michigan has to show that against USC or otherwise, or defenses are just going to be, stacking the box and not respecting the threat of a pass game. And if a defense can do that, then Michigan's not going to be able to move the ball.
Where do you think you guys will be with Loveland's health?
Coaches are optimistic. Lip readers in the stands, on the sidelines, are saying that Loveland had mentioned he was okay. I think Michigan was more conservative with him because by the time he got hurt, the game against Arkansas State was well in hand. Sherrod Moore mentioned yesterday that, he's still being monitored by doctors, but the injury indications are that he's better than what Michigan had originally feared. So, I expect him to give it a shot against USC if he can. This is very much a season-defining game. If they lose this, they're 2-2, 0-1 in Big Ten play, and any hopes of either a Big Ten championship game appearance, a college football playoff berth, like all those things are very much teetering on the edge. The season looks a lot different if Michigan is 3-1 and 1-0 in Big Ten play with a marquee win against a program like USC. So I'd expect a guy like Colston Loveland to give it a shot if he's kind of 50-50, I'd say.
I don't want to use extreme, so I won't say no matter what, but is the feeling that Michigan's defense is good enough in it sans turnovers as this season progresses? I mean, you have a superstar on every level, but I mean, football is football. Is that kind of quietly the thought? If you take care of it, you're going to be in every game?
Yeah, 100%. And that goes back to why Michigan was so unhappy, I guess, with the turnover margin and with Davis Warren at quarterback, is that if the offense can just take care of the football, it doesn't need to be scoring points on every drive. It can almost be like in Iowa, like certainly not to that extreme last year, but, take care of the football offense, set your defense up in positions to succeed. And if you look back to the Texas game that obviously looked awful on paper, looked awful in person too, quite honestly. But part of the reason for that is that, the defense played 81 snaps that game. They played almost 50 snaps, maybe even 50 snaps in the first half. And that's something that was a product of the offense that committed several turnovers, that had issues punting the ball even, and just Texas's average field position in that game to start a drive was the 48-yard line. So that can't happen. Certainly not against Texas, not against a team like USC. But I think the thought is this defense can be one of the best defenses in the country. The offense just needs to, score some points and put the defense in position to play complementary football. And that if that happens, Michigan can be in most games in the fourth quarter with a chance to win, even against a USC and Oregon and an Ohio State. Hasn't happened yet. Again, turnovers have been an issue in every single game, but maybe with a change at center or under center, that could happen this weekend.
Alejandro, we asked this when Michigan was playing Texas a couple weeks ago, but what's a realistic number that you think Michigan has to keep USC to in order to have a chance in this game?
I mean, that depends on the USC defense, right? Famously, USC over the last couple of years has not been a very sound defensive unit. We've seen how teams that play, more smash mouth football in the former Pac-12, like you think of your Utah a couple of years ago and what they were able to do to USC. Obviously, USC looked a lot better in that game against LSU. I didn't catch their game last week against Utah State, but I know that was a shutout. It looks like they've taken significant steps forward as a defense. Their defensive coordinator is a guy who comes from the Ravens background that Michigan has adopted itself, and is a guy that I think Michigan would have been interested in this offseason as well. Obviously, they ended up with Wink Martindale. I think, about a 24 points, something along those lines. Like Michigan offensively has struggled to prove that it can move the ball consistently. It has struggled to avoid turnovers, but they do have the playmakers. They do have, the Donovan Edwards, the Alex Orgies, the Colston Lovelands that suggest they should be able to score 2-3 touchdowns. And they have the kicker that in Dominic Zavada, who's a weapon and can turn short drives into points. So anything over 24 points, I think, would be tough for Michigan. But something along those lines, I think they'd at least be in the game and feel okay in the fourth quarter about that.
That's Alejandro Zuñiga from the Michigan Insider. Alejandro, we appreciate your time, and we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
We'll be back tomorrow with Hurrdat Sports Radio.